half. Missed free throw by Schrempf. Kemp with the follow, and the Sonics pull away. In the fourth, Gary Payton with the finishing touch.
Payton with that pose again, and he'll hold it all the way down court.
Game 2. Shawn Kemp picks up his 4th foul in the first half. The score was tied at halftime, but in the third, Karl Malone scores 18, and Utah goes in front. On to the fourth. Payton with the steal. And it's Kemp with the finish.
He threw it. Woo! Oh, my goodness. He threw a piece of dynamite at Carr.
So the Sonics take the lead, but Malone answers. Jazz down by just 1. Then it's Kemp at both ends.
Goes to the basket, leans back, scores again for 5 feet. Across court, intercepted by Kemp on a mission and transition.
If we get the offensive defensive rebound, we still have a chance. We can take a time out there and have a chance. I don't know, maybe that's not very good, but I felt fairly comfortable with it.
Venue change for Game 3. First quarter at the Delta Center, Gary Payton with 13 points, and the Sonics are up by 3 after 1. In the second quarter, things get a bit rough. First, Karl Malone and Vincent Askew will exchange words. And then Frank Brakowski with the hard pick on Brian Russell. He was assessed a flagrant. Still in the second, Jeff Hornacek with the 3. He had 28 for the game. Early third quarter, Shawn Kemp called for his 4th foul. Kemp can't understand it. Neither can his coach. With Kemp out, Utah goes on a 12-4 run led by Brian Russell, a playoff career high of 24 in the game. The Jazz remain perfect at home in the playoffs, perhaps due to the home cooking of Karl Malone's mom. There she is. Meanwhile, Shawn Kemp and his teammates are not the least bit happy with the referees.
Even though they made some questionable calls, we battled back, we hung in there. We still had a chance to win until late in the game, and that's what's most important. We didn't give up.
My mom always told me if you don't have anything nice to say about it, don't say it at all. So I won't say anything about the officiating.
Besides the loss, it seems like you're a little bit more frustrated, a little bit more ticked off than normal.
We all right. You will see Sunday how ticked off we are. All right.
Gary Payton pretty much seething about the officiating in Game 3 when the Sonics shot 22 free throws to Utah's 35. Let's check in with Seattle's Sam Perkins. He spoke with Hannah Storm just a short while ago.
Here was Sam Perkins, the only member of the Sonics squad to reach a championship-level series. Sam, George Karl told us that in Game 3 the team was mentally fatigued after the disparity of fouls in the first half. Did you find that to be the case?
Well, I think that was the case. I think there was a lot of calls that were called so quick and so uncanny. Like, it seems like everything we did, or everything we tried seemed to go for Utah. So I don't know. I think Game 3 was an indication of a lot of fouls that necessarily wouldn't have happened in the first 2 previous games. But, you know, they're home and they played aggressive, so we have to give them credit.
There's some concern about Shawn Kemp getting into early foul trouble. He had only 10 points in Game 3, and I know that Gary Payton said that he met with George Karl yesterday, stressing the importance of Kemp staying in the game. What's your strategy to try to keep him in today's game?
Well, I think there's no real call for, you know, urgency or panic. You know, we haven't lost the game in a long time, and now that we have, it seems like we have to adjust. And they did some things to counter our playing, and Shawn, of course, is limited, but I think the whole team have to step up in a way, in a sense, to help out Shawn. And Shawn plays so aggressively, you know, that's his game, and he gets into foul trouble quite often. So he's going to have to play a little smarter, and we have to help him and try to get him as many baskets, easy possible scores as the game go on.
You mentioned the difference in officiating that you perceive in this building, and it's very clear that even regardless of that Utah is a different team when playing at home. What makes them that way?
Well, everybody plays well at home. You know, this is the playoffs, and everybody wants to protect the home court. But we've had success on the road, and it seems like Game 3 wasn't our call. But I think Utah plays well. They had time to adjust to what we were doing, and the layoff really helped them. So I think it's one of those games where we had to adjust now, come back out, and do what we did in Game 1 and 2, and go on from there.
Okay, good luck in the game. I'm sure we'll be seeing more production from you and the rest of the bench.
I hope so.
Back to Bob.
Hannah, Sam, thanks a lot. Sam Perkins, by the way, the only player on either roster who has made it as far as the NBA Finals with the Lakers in '91 when they lost to the Bulls.
Well, picking up on what Sam said about the Jazz being aggressive, I was really disappointed in the way the Sonics did not play the kind of games that they played in Seattle. I fully expected them to come to Salt Lake City with the same attitude that they had when they went to Houston in Game 3 and took the Rockets out, basically. I think you could look at the foul situation in this game. When a team is aggressive, the referees will allow you to get along with that style of play, and they did not allow that in this game.
What does Utah have to do today to sustain what they started on Friday?
They got to take the ball out of Gary Payton's hands. He's their top assist man. They got to make the perimeter players into drivers. And certainly they got to continue to attack Sean Kemp. He's been foul prone during this series, so play Antoine Carr a lot, isolate for Chris Morris, try and get him in foul trouble again.
Okay, we're not too far from the tip-off for Game 4. When we come back here on Showtime, we'll hear from one of the best pure shooters in the NBA, Jeff Hornacek of the Jazz, coming off a big effort with 28 Friday night in Game 3.
You followed him from the first day he...
Starter, the exclusive locker room t-shirt of the NBA 1996 champion.
I'm tired.
Work on the no-look.
I know they look funny with shorts, but they really help my vertical.
Is this your idea of better TV?
How about in Phoenix, had a year and a half in Philly, Jeff Hornacek has settled in with the Utah Jazz. He was big in the Game 3 win, 28 points, and he did it taking just 14 shots. A typical Hornacek performance, deadly shooting from outside and perfect shooting from the free throw line, 7 of 7. Hornacek was second in the league this year in free throw percentage, just under 90%. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf of the Nuggets, the only guy who did better. And Hornacek belongs in any discussion of the league's best pure shooters. The unheralded shooting guard spoke with Greg Gumbel.
When you guys came back here from Seattle, you were down 2-0. What was the mindset? Was it, well, we're kind of waist deep in it now, or is it, well, now we've got them right where we want them?
I don't think it's not, we didn't feel we had them where we wanted them. The thing is, I don't think we panicked. We were down 2-0, but we knew that they're a good home team. They've only lost 4 games all year, and we've won all our games in the playoffs at home. So we felt we can come home and win 2 games and make it a 3-game series. And we've lost 3 games up in Seattle in the last 30 seconds. So we feel we can still get a win there. And as long as we win our home games, we can win the series.
You're a treat to watch when you get into one of those grooves, when you're shooting well. What is that like? What does that feel like when you feel like you can't miss?
Yeah, everything is kind of slow moving. You seem like you're taking your time, and as soon as the ball leaves your hands, even on my misses, I know if it's going to be a make or a miss as soon as it leaves your hand, and there's no question about it. That when you're feeling good and confident that you can make any shot.
Let me grab a basketball here and ask you that at some point you changed your shot, right? Will you show me what you used to do and what you do now?
Well, basically, you know, growing up, I was small, and what I had to do was, I think I got in a bad habit of shooting with 2 hands. So when I would shoot the ball, you know, I'd push off with my left thumb. And my dad, who is a coach, would tell me from, I don't know, maybe age 8, you know, you got to get that elbow in. And I would always, I guess I'm stubborn, I always told him, you know, making 50% of them, I don't want to change. And when I got in the league, Jerry Colangelo told me, you know, change your shot a little bit and get the rotation right so you get that shooter's touch. And what I figured out was I was pushing off with that left thumb. So basically what I did, I just put a piece of tape around my hand so I couldn't use that thumb. And when you put that hand on the side of the ball, that makes you bring your elbow in. That was my main change. And then my other change that I can't take any credit for, my wife Stacy, she was sitting there watching me, and you know, I'm missing some shots, and I'm throwing the ball up against the wall, kicking it around. I'm frustrated, and she goes, point your hand at the basket. And I'm like, what do you know? I was so mad at the time. I was just, what do you know? And of course, I didn't tell her, but I started doing it. And when I followed through, I made sure I pointed right to the spot I was aiming at. All of a sudden, they started going in more and more. And I looked over and said, yeah, I think you got it.
At the same time, people talk about Malone and Stockton so much that they don't hear your name as much. And here you are during the regular season, you throw in 15 a game, you shoot 50% from the floor, you shoot 47% from behind the three-point line, you up that now to better than 60% behind the three-point line. Does the word unheralded fit Jeff Hornacek?
I've heard that for a while. I've kind of always played behind guys in Phoenix, behind Tom Chambers and Kevin Johnson, and now here with John and Carl. And you know, I don't mind that. I went to Philadelphia, and I had to be the guy that did the scoring. And even though I thought I did pretty well, you know, it was tough every night going out there and getting double teamed. If I ever beat a guy, I always had another guy right on me because I knew, you know, they would make me pass the ball and get it to somebody else. So it may be unheralded, but it also relieves maybe some of the pressure of the double teams. I don't get double teamed. They may concern themselves with you know, me coming off screens and stuff like that, but yeah, I don't have to worry about the stuff that John and Carl have to worry about.
You mentioned your dad was a coach. How big an influence was he on you, and do you still talk to him about things?
Yeah, he's here at the games this weekend, and I think as I was growing up, he was great because he didn't take me when we got home from a game and lecture, well, you should have done this or should have done that. It was kind of a more positive side. Well, you know, that was a nice shot or a nice play. He was picking out the positive things. And we still talk about the games a lot. It's funny because he's a referee, too. And so at times I'll say, oh, did you see the referees? They were bad tonight or something. And he goes, no, they weren't. They were fine. We had those little arguments like that.
Well, here's a rarity. A guy who stands up for the officials, especially during these playoffs when the Zebras have taken a lot of heat. This guy puts in a good word for the refs, Hornacek's dad. You knew Hornacek pretty well during his stretch in Philly. He had come to the Sixers in the Charles Barkley trade from Phoenix.
Yes, he did. He was a good player on a bad team, and now he's a good player on a good team, which says a little bit about the type of game that Jeff Hornacek has. I think in Philadelphia, he was also playing the same position as Hersey Hawkins, and he went out of his way to try and help Hersey, and now he's matched up against him in this Western Conference final, and so goes that matchup. It seems like so goes victory in this series.
When you look at Hornacek, not exactly the guy about whom you'd immediately say, this guy's going to be a very good NBA player.
No, I think if I went into a gym and saw him there, I'd say, yeah, I got that guy. And I know that's what went on his early years in Phoenix. He used to play at a Jewish Y there, and guys told me that a lot of former players showed up and a lot of sons, and he was one of the last guys picked in those days. And now he's the pivotal guy in this series. We know Utah's strategy is to force the double team on Karl Malone and get as many open shots for Hornacek as possible.
Well, a Seattle win, and they lead 3-1. A Utah victory, and it's all tied up. Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals is coming up. Greg Gumbel, Steve Jones, and Bill Walton will have the call. The NBA playoffs continue on NBC after these messages from your local station.
This
For the Seattle Sonics, the NBA playoffs have been a place where championship dreams have ended abruptly and painfully. The past 2 years have seen Seattle's high expectations erased by embarrassing first-round defeats. Each bitter loss leaving their title aspirations little more than a distant image. But this year has been different. The Sonics overcame their first-round barrier, then surged to sweep the defending world champions. Now they stand just 2 wins away from the NBA Finals, a plateau that once seemed unattainable. For John Stockton and Karl Malone, there have been countless great moments in careers that one day will lead them to the Hall of Fame. But for all the triumphs they've shared, the ultimate prize, an NBA championship, has eluded them, with each year's playoff journey ending in defeat and frustration. Facing yet another season gone wrong, the Utah Jazz rallied on Friday, taking Game 3 of this series from Seattle to set up today's crucial matchup. Can Seattle put a stranglehold on the series, or will Utah pull even? Both have lived through nightmares to reach this point. For one, defeat will be crushing, but for the other, an NBA title shot beckons.
This is the NBA on NBC. The 1996 NBA Conference Finals.
Welcome to the Delta Center in Salt Lake City for Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals between the Seattle Sonics and the Utah Jazz. There is a renewed enthusiasm and attitude here in Salt Lake City. Things weren't so rosy when Seattle took the first 2 games of this series in the Northwest, but now, with a victory on Friday night, it seems the Sonics will not hog this series. It's 2-1. And the chance to pull even for Utah today. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Utah, along with Steve Jones and Bill Walton. I'm Greg Gumbel. NBA basketball this time of year is all about matchups, and we have some superb matchups to watch in this series. We'll begin at the point guard with 2 of the premier players in the game today, in Utah's John Stockton and Seattle's Gary Payton. Payton has dominated so far. Stockton, most everyone suspects, is injured. Stockton will not discuss it, but we asked teammate Karl Malone about it.
If people only knew, he's taken a beating in the press, you know. And I'll say this, 90% of the guys in this league, or 95, wouldn't have played. And he's playing. So right when I say he can't impress me, he impressed me again.
And not only has he impressed his teammates, he has also impressed his coach, Jerry Sloan, who is of a similar mind. No excuses. You come out and you find a way to win. The Seattle Supersonics are well aware that Stockton is not 100%, but he's a very dangerous player, and when he's out on the floor, the Jazz are a difficult opponent to put away, so they want no excuses as well. They'll attack John Stockton this afternoon, Greg.
All right, Steve. Meanwhile, the other matchup to watch is at the forward position between 2 of the game's great scorers. Karl Malone of the Utah Jazz, Shawn Kemp of the Seattle Sonics. Kemp's numbers have dwindled as this game has progressed, and he was not impressive in a 20-point loss on Friday night. George Karl's looking for solutions.
Stop fouling and rebound the ball. I mean, it's about 1950 that was written in a book in basketball that if you foul, you can't run. And if you don't rebound, you can't get a transitional situation. We've been dominated in both areas in the last 2 games. They've been to the foul line too many times. And in the second halves of both games, they've out-rebounded us by double digits. So I think we got to be aware of that. I think we got to be more concerned in those fundamental areas.
George Karl has the luxury that Shawn Kemp does not have to guard Karl Malone, thus saving offensive energy for game heroics like in the late stages of Game 2. Karl Malone's dominating personality, though, has been pervasive throughout the Western Conference playoffs. And unless Shawn Kemp and his other front court mates come up and respond to that challenge and take on Karl Malone, they're going to be in for a very long afternoon, Greg.
All right, Bill, Utah looks to even the series with a second straight win today. Keep in mind, the Sonics have not lost 2 straight since November the 21st, 187 days ago. Starting lineups and the opening tip when we come back to the Delta Center in Salt Lake City in just a moment.
It's equal parts sweat and steel, with ice thrown in for blood. It's margins of air measured in hundredths of an inch.
Lousy TV.
Another subtle reminder to change your oil. Q-Lube, the quality of Quaker State and an oil change.
There's no typical person that falls behind in their bills. It happens to anyone, in any occupation. And for
Desperation, desire, they will lay bare a man's heart.
a team's soul. Game 4 proved once and for all that Seattle is both strong and sure.
We want to finish this year being the best basketball team we can be. And I think we're going to do that. And I think that might be a champion.
A championship team? Perhaps. Seattle is just one win, a heartbeat away from the NBA Finals.
Is the NBA on NBC. The 1996 NBA Conference Finals.
It's been 17 years since the Seattle Sonics have seen the NBA Finals. They can get there tonight. Welcome to Game 5 between the Utah Jazz and the Seattle Sonics. On Sunday evening, George Karl and the rest of his basketball club arrived to a raucous and jubilant welcome, coming home from Salt Lake City. And now at the Key Arena, up 3 games to 1, the hoops inside promise to be a lot more intense than they are outdoors as the Seattle Sonics look to advance to the NBA championship round. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Key Arena here in Seattle. Along with Bill Walton and Steve Jones, I'm Greg Gumbel. Up 3 games to 1, the Seattle Sonics are looking to put the Utah Jazz away, but I think they'll find a pretty determined Jazz squad in store this evening. It was set up with a Game 4 victory in Salt Lake City on Sunday. An ugly win for the Sonics. Shawn Kemp fouled out, an NBA record-tying low number of field goal attempts, 23 turnovers, yet they arrive here in Game 5 with a chance to move on, and to Gary Payton, it means everything.
I think it's the biggest game in my life, you know, because the last 4 is through. I think closing a series out is the biggest thing to any team, because the other team are coming in it as well. We ain't got nothing to lose. We got to beat them 3 times. They only got to beat us 1. We're playing at their place, and we just come out and give a charge and see what kind of energy we get. We might can get back in this, and this is when a team lets down. They, you know, we 1 win away. All we have to do is just come out here and play, and that's not it.
Surprising that Seattle has such a stranglehold on this series without getting a dominating performance from their star forward, Shawn Kemp. Kemp's performances have been limited by foul troubles, by mental mistakes, and by turnovers. Throughout Game 1, which was a blowout, that hasn't been a good time for Shawn Kemp. Fortunately, though, Seattle does have Sam Perkins, who has come through big time with clutch outside shooting, a solid post-up game, and terrific defense and rebounding. Sam Perkins averaging 16 points a game in the winning games. It's been time now for Seattle to close the door and thank Utah for coming to their party.
Yeah, but Utah, not a team to be counted out quickly. They were winners of 55 games during the regular season. Theirs is an uphill struggle. They have to win at least 2 in a row to force a Game 7. Jerry Sloan, the head coach of the Jazz, his attitude is very basic.
If you got any competitive blood in you, come and play. If you don't, you just try to get it over with and go home. I'm anxious to see us play. I'm anxious to see who we are in that situation, because I feel like we'll come and play hard. We know we got a difficult task ahead of us, but you know, that's the exciting part of sports.
Well, Jerry Sloan expects his jazz band to play some bright music tonight. They have controlled the tempo in 3 of the 4 games, and they feel that a little bit of luck, they could be up 3-1. You go back to John Stockton's shot on Sunday afternoon. He had the game winner in his hand, and this is a shot that John Stockton has cashed many times throughout his career, but that kind of typifies the quagmire that John Stockton has been stuck in through this series. They are waiting for the real John Stockton to show up, and if they do, they'll be playing a different tune for the Sonics.
Well, if the Utah Jazz are going to extend the series, they'll have to do something they've never done, and that's win a road game in the Western Conference Finals. We'll have the starting lineups in the opening tap coming up from Seattle in a couple of moments. First, we'll send you to Bob Costas in our Showtime studio in New York. You'll hear from Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, all of that coming up right after this.
Good evening. Bob Costas in New York will send you back out to Seattle for the tip-off in just a few minutes. Yesterday, as you know, Chicago wrapped up the Eastern Conference Finals, beating the Orlando Magic 106-101 to complete a 4-game sweep. Not a good showing for the young Magic team, which made it to the NBA Finals last year, only to be swept there by Houston. After yesterday's game, Shaquille O'Neal spoke with Jim Gray.
Shaq, is there any explanation why the team does so well in the regular season and now in the playoffs when it gets to whichever series or whichever round, it ends so abysmally?
Not really. We just have to learn from situations. And even though we lost 3 years in a row, even though we got swept 3 years in a row, it doesn't mean that we're failures. We've had great regular seasons. We had a lot of great one-gamers. You know, we played hard. And it's just all about going out there playing hard. And one day, when this team gets through all the thick and thin, maybe we're going to win it. I mean, it took Michael 7 years, it took Akeem 10 years. And I would have liked to, go into the finals again this year, but it just didn't happen that way. And you know, the Bulls, they just played great. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, I mean, they, played great.
Would it have mattered if you had had your entire arsenal, or are the Bulls in this instance just too good, Shaq?
I mean, I don't believe in the word if. I mean, if. It doesn't matter now. Like I said, we went out there, we played hard, we gave it our best, but it doesn't mean that we're failures. I mean, we work hard and we just play. But in this, society, everyone wants to be a winner, including me. So, of course, I'm disappointed with the season. I'm disappointed with my play throughout this series. I mean, I was very inconsistent on the line. So I let my team down. But the thing is not to get down on myself, not to get down on any of my teammates. I never point fingers. I just go work hard in the summer and just come back hard. I mean, that's a good thing about America. If you don't do it this time, then maybe you could do it next time.
Is this difficult to handle?
It's very difficult. Very, very difficult. Of course, I'm upset. Of course, I'm hurt. Of course, I'm mad. But I'm going to let it sit. I'm always remember this time. And like I said, I just have to come back harder next year.
It has been reported that you and Brian Hill are not on the same page. Do you want Brian Hill back, or would you prefer that there be a coaching change?
I don't know who reported that, but I was raised by my father to respect my elders and to respect the upper hand. And like I said, I'm a player. I come out and play. And that's my job. My job is to just come out and play hard.
Is that an endorsement, or is that a you don't care who's here?
Is that an endorsement? No. That's just how I was raised. I was raised to respect.
So whoever it is, you'll respect that position?
My job is to just come out and play.
Shaq has an option to become an unrestricted free agent. Horace Grant also can become a free agent and throw in whatever speculation still surrounds Brian Hill, and it makes for an interesting offseason in Orlando. Meanwhile, Chicago got another sensational game from Michael Jordan yesterday, 45 points, and perhaps not enough adjectives to do him justice.
2-on-1, Pippen with Jordan. Michael Jordan. Jordan operating against Bowie. Yes, and it counts. Michael Jordan single-handedly bringing the Bulls back. Jordan with the pull-up. Yes, another extraordinary performance.
For the 4th time in his last 4 full seasons, Jordan is going to the finals. After the game, he spoke with Ahmad Rashad.
It appears that Seattle will be your opponent in the finals. They were one of the few teams that beat you during the course of the season. What are their strengths?
Very good defensive team. Have great three-point shooters. I think they're very talented athletically, and I think they have veteran leadership on that team that have experience, final play or playoff experience. And I think it's going to be a very good contest for us if it happens that way. But we must worry about ourselves. I don't think we have to worry about them. We have to worry about what we like to do as a team and how much control we want to maintain throughout the series.
And we'll have more of Ahmad's conversation with Michael Jordan at halftime. If Seattle beats Utah tonight, the NBA Finals start on Friday night in Chicago, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Karl Malone and the Jazz don't want to hear anything about that, though. The mailman getting set for Game 5 against Seattle as the Jazz try to stay alive. Gary Payton has been the best Sonic in these playoffs. He'll duel again with John Stockton tonight, a matchup he's gotten the better of so far. The tip-off is coming up right after these messages.
Spencer and Chris Morris, along with Karl Malone up front, carrying his share of the load at 26 points and 10.5 boards a game. Here's Jerry Sloan, the Jazz head coach. For the Seattle Sonics, 6-2 against Utah this year, 4-0 at home, 2-2 on the road, and winners of 64 games during the regular season. In the backcourt, Gary Payton, the Sonics' leading scorer at 22 points a game, along with Hersey Hawkins. Up front, Irvin Johnson in the middle, Sean Kemp. Foul trouble, 3 of the 4 games played, and Detlef Schrempf, and there is George Karl, the Sonics head coach. Working the sidelines with us this evening, as always, Hannah Storm. Hannah.
Greg, there are many bigger names on the Sonics, but there's no question the emotional leader of this team is Nate McMillan. McMillan wanted to resign his captaincy after the playoff disappointments of the last 2 seasons. His teammates talked him out of it. Now, unfortunately for this, the biggest game of his career, is physically not 100%. A sciatic nerve injury in his left leg has worsened throughout this series. He's unable to sprint or jump off of both legs. But while he is physically not 100%, he still is the inspirational motivation for this team, telling his teammates in a big speech before today's game, this is what you worked so hard for the last 9 months. All our sweat, all our tears, all of our pain. This is the payoff. This is your reward. A trip to the NBA Finals, he told his teammates. To get there, you have to close it out tonight. Greg?
Thank you, Hannah. Our officials, Joe Crawford, Ed Middleton, Bill Oates. The ball goes up in the opening tap to the Utah Jazz. Gary Payton on Stockton. All the way across court to Chris Morris. Loses the handle. And tapped out of bounds by Morris. It'll be Seattle ball.
More of the same for Chris Morris, who's been an absolute no-show in this series. For Seattle and George Karl, they need to open this game up. It's been played the entire series at Utah's pace. Get it going up and down. Run them until the Utah Jazz just says, that's enough.
Well, the problem for Chris Morris has been at the defensive end, and he hasn't had much of a chance to get game rhythm. But the Jazz feel that a play or two, they could be the team that was ahead 3-1, and they've come here to stay in the series. Karl Malone has said he's going to do everything he can to make sure his team wins the game.
Malone, quick turnaround is too long, and Schrempf at the rebound. And a foul is called on John Stockton. John Stockton, as we have pointed out, has truly struggled in the postseason. And yet, surprisingly, a 2-point loss at Salt Lake City on Sunday afternoon. If the Jazz shoot 60% from the free throw line, they're even up in this series. Schrempf.
A big start for Detlef Schrempf. 2 recoveries on the defensive end. 2 posts up now. Schrempf has been struggling, but Jerry Sloan has taken the ball out of his hand with a lot of double teaming down low on Schrempf.
And a whistle and a foul is called on Irvin Johnson. That's his first. Fouls are even up now at 1 each.
One of the real reasons for Stockton struggling so much is the player he's playing against. Gary Payton has been the best Western Conference playoff performer this year.
Stockton on his way through, lost the handle, picked it up. Back to Felton Spencer with the turnaround. Doesn't get the bounce, and Kemp with the rebound.
They're going into deadlift shrimp every time in the low post.
Well, the reason for that is Morse has had a tough time, and if he scores a couple of hoops, they're going to come back with Brian Russell.
Gary Payton with a three makes it 5-0 Sonics.
It's that post-up game that gives Seattle its three-point opportunities. And when they just play guard offense with Payton and Hornacek, Payton and Hawkins, they don't get that many three-point opportunities.
Nice move by Morris on the baseline, but it didn't fall for him. And the Sonics looking to add to their lead. Hawkins spins and draws the foul from Hornacek.
In all 4 games so far, when the team has played at home, they've gotten an emotional start, but both teams have been able to weather the storm and get back in the ball game. Hornacek reaching around, picks up his first personal foul against Hersey Hawkins. Hawkins knows he has to keep some offensive presence against Jeff Hornacek.
Top of the key, Hawkins for 3. Jerry Sloan says we got to put the brakes on this with 9:31 to play. The Sonics have scored 8. The Jazz have yet to dent the scoreboard. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
The Dream Team, coming this summer on NBC.
The Jazz have come out ice cold. The Seattle Sonics have come out like a house of fire. We talked with George Karl yesterday, and he shared with us what he told his club.
I told my team that this was the biggest must-win game that we've played since I've been in Seattle. And that's the way I feel. I think we got to win this game. Because of, and not necessarily because of Utah, just for us. We got to go out and show our attitude and our intensity and our character, and don't show a flaw in that character. If we show a flaw, we can overcompensate. We might win game 6, might win, but we don't want to show a flaw. And that's the way we've been in this playoff series, and let's do it that classy way.
Rebound off to the Sonics as the Jazz still fail to score. Shrimp had it blocked, and the loose ball picked off by Felton Spencer.
The Jazz need a basket to get themselves settled down. They came back with a play for Hornacek. He couldn't cash, so they've got to come back to something for Karl Malone and get themselves some offensive confidence.
Stockton, long-range shot doesn't fall. Rebound off. Loose ball foul goes against Utah. Let's go over to Hannah Storm. Hannah.
Jerry Sloan told his teammates, look, this is just as I told you before the game. The Sonics are going to try to blow you away early. You need to get physical, set better screens. Most importantly, keep your composure, he said. The Sonics want to beat you in the first quarter. I'm not sure that they're prepared to play a full 48 minutes. Greg?
Sean Kemp makes it 10-0 Seattle.
Seattle may not have to play much more than the first quarter the way Utah has started this game.
Jeff Hornacek finally breaks the spell. Utah now 1 for 6 from the floor.
Every play for Utah has been a perimeter jumper. No isolation and allowing Karl Malone to drive to the hoop. Beautiful pass.
Johnson left all alone for the easy two-handed stuff. 12-2.
But the personality of the Sonics is that they will get a little happy when they get a lead. They will start doing some things to let you back in the game. There's plenty of time for the Utah Jazz, so they don't need to panic. Remember, they had the Houston Rockets down 20.
Hornacek fouled going to the basket. Let's go back to the other end of the court.
Sean Kemp just beats the double team beautifully. Once Spencer comes down from up top, that's really the only way that Irvin Johnson's going to score, is to bench into it. Really, though, this game is a celebratory game for Seattle. All their series have been won on the road, at Sacramento, at Houston. These fans have not had a chance to get up and down and say, yeah, we're winning.
You heard George Karl say that we don't want to show a flaw. Most certainly the Chicago Bulls are watching at home.
But Greg, that's the new psychology of this team in Seattle that has grown so much over the last couple of years. Sam Perkins itching to get into the ball game.
Hornacek hits both free throws. Remember, this Utah Jazz team shot just 50% on Sunday afternoon, 11 of 22. On the baseline. Back to Kemp.
Sean Kemp, 3 plays in the low post tonight. Perfect execution, everyone. A turnaround jumper, a dish off for a dunk, and then a follow-up on the offensive miss.
And it's an offensive foul. Foul is on Felton Spencer. That's his second.
Three guys involved. Payton on the backdoor cut. The pass is bounced right off of Irvin Johnson's head. And that's the way it's bounced tonight.
You get another look at it, and the fortunate bounce goes the way of the Sonics here early, but the throwdown tells you that Sean Kemp is into this one. Karl Malone has got to get into the ball game, get his team settled down.
Greg Foster has come off the bench to replace Spencer now. The shot no good, tap no good, and loose ball picked off by Hornacek.
Look at Sean Kemp chase that ball down from behind.
And it's off his foot out of bounds. And he gets the standing ovation from the fans.
Sean Kemp was 5 feet behind the play when Hornacek takes off. Hornacek's got good speed of his own.
Meanwhile, the Jazz have to get Karl Malone into this game. Hornacek with pressure. Malone is there for the putback.
All the Jazz need to do is stay within contact. They're down 8, and certainly in the NBA, an 8-point game changes very quickly in a couple of possessions. They know that the Sonics are not going to continue this hot shooting. George Karl feeling very confident right now.
Gary Payton with 5 of the Sonics, 16 points, 10-point lead. And on the move to the basket, Karl Malone with the layup. So Malone has 4, and it's 16-8.
Steve, I think Seattle's certainly capable of continuing this hot shooting. We've seen it in blowout games, of first games of every single series that they've had so far. The Utah Jazz trying to get something going with a nice pick and roll. Again, Malone to the hoop, so critical.
Payton has Stockton hit the deck, and Malone with the rebound. Stockton back in a hurry. Tries to go across court, tapped out of bounds, and belongs to Utah.
Tipped by Hersey Hawkins. That one just flew and sailed, and Jerry Sloan giving the signal to set up the play. Stockton normally is not going to be that far off the mark.
6 minutes to play in the first. Sonics 16, Jazz 8.
Nice double team here by Utah's defense. Seattle's defense.
So nice that it's an illegal defense.
Puzzled George Karl, but I mean, that's been part of their secret in containing John Stockton, running at him and making him back up. If you can force Stockton to back up rather than break you down, get inside, you control him. He hasn't had the double-digit assist game that he's had in the series leading up to this.
It's the same thing that Chicago did with Orlando, double-teaming Penny Hardaway on the advance of the ball. And these teams that just have one ball handler, it makes it very difficult.
Malone with the turnaround, he got fouled. Irvin Johnson says, I strongly disagree.
Karl Malone says, thank you, God. This is going to be the kind of game where Karl Malone is going to shoot and shoot a lot. They want to keep him from the free throw line. Johnson is expendable since they do the center position by committee. So if he makes it difficult for him to score.
Well, the fans have started to count off for Karl Malone. NBA rules stipulate that you should get the shot off within 10 seconds. The fans, well, have they been counting a little too quickly or not? You kind of think that the Sonics fans probably have, but we'll put a clock on Karl Malone and see how long it takes him from the time he gets the ball from Joey Crawford.
This is when you know you're really good. When you're trying to disravel your free throw.
And the fans are a little quick. Malone has had his problems at the free throw line, and he makes just 1 of 2.
And a lot of his free throws have done just that, go in and out, and it's been difficult for him to figure out exactly what he's been doing wrong.
And a travel. Detlef finds it hard to believe, but the ball goes over to the Jazz.
Seattle's game plan has been terrific tonight. Post up the forwards every time down in the set offense.
Sonics have been turning the ball over 25 times a game on the average away from home, 15 a game here at home against Utah.
Now, this is where they don't want Greg Foster trying to work on his own, but a nice jump hook for him. And the reason that he's in the game, he can make some shots in spaces that are going to be available. He gets his first two.
And the Jazz are within 5 at 16-11. Kemp and an illegal defense call now against the Jazz.
But what a shot by Sean Kemp. He just waited and waited.
Take one more look, and you can see Greg Foster is camped in the lane, not guarding anybody, just halfway, just good enough to clog up the passing lane. Those shots don't count. Anything after the buzzer is no good.
Looks good.
So each team with an illegal defense call against them. Gary Payton shot off the mark, picked off by Malone. Howard Isley in the game now for Stockton. Sam Perkins will come off the bench for Seattle at the next whistle.
The ball pressure by Payton, the defensive player of the year.
Foster turned it over on the baseline. Into the game now comes Sam Perkins, who has been outstanding off the bench. In their 3 victories, he has averaged 16 a game. In their 1 loss, he just scored 5 points.
But clutch free throw shooting, clutch three-point shooting, beautiful pass. Gary Payton is just destroying this Utah team, playing over the top of whoever guards it.
18-11 Seattle. As we come up on 4 minutes to play in the first. Out of the corner, Chris Morris, three-pointer, no. Malone trying to keep it alive. That is out of bounds, off Payton into the Utah ball.
Payton paid the price that time in trying to get that ball. He had a major collision with Karl Malone. Chris Morris coming out of the ball game, and if Morris is going to get into it, he had to have something happen at the offensive end. As you see Payton go head over heels, but the Jazz are only down 7 points. This is no demolition by any stretch of the imagination. It seems that way because the Sonics are so hot.
Malone, too tall. Trent with the rebound. Ryan Russell onto the floor for the Utah Jazz. So it's Russell, Foster, Malone, Isley, and Hornacek.
Steve, Utah is not dictating the flow of this game. The points they have gotten have been on garbage, an offensive rebound, a breakdown from Seattle's defensive point of view. Where Seattle, on the other hand, they're able to post up what they want. They're able to get Gary Payton easy jumpers.
That foul is on Greg Foster, who takes a seat on the bench now as Antoine Carr replaces him on the floor. 3:35 to play in the first. Sam Perkins for 3. And Hornacek with the ball. Isley back in a hurry, drives the lane, puts it up left-handed. Tough shot, and Shrimp with another rebound.
Yeah, Utah Jazz normally don't look to sprint out on the road. It's going to be a foul against Vincent Askew. Turnovers have been a problem for Seattle, and if they get a number of them, this score is going to stay down. Askew never varied from his path, thinking he was going to come right through Hornacek. So the Jazz get another chance to stay close.
But Steve, the turnovers have really hurt them in Utah. 24 turnovers a game for the Sonics in Utah, just 15 here.
Isley lost the ball, and Askew almost turned it back over. Shrimp to Kemp. The happiest coach right now. 2:45 to play in the first. 20-11 Seattle. And Hornacek is fouled by Askew. And we'll take time with 2:36 to play. This is game 5. It's a survival game for the Utah Jazz. For the Sonics, victory means the Chicago Bulls would be next. 20-11 Seattle. We'll come back to Key Arena in just a moment. Back to Seattle at the top of our telecast tonight. Hannah Storm told you Nate McMillan was the emotional leader for Seattle and made an impassioned speech. We asked Jerry Sloan who is likely to stand up and talk to the Jazz.
Probably none of them. Talk is cheap. You know, people don't want to hear you sit around and talk and say, this is what we got to do. If you're a competitor, you keep your mouth shut and go play. And that's the attitude I've always tried to convey to these guys. The guys that do all the talking and probably not doing much playing. You know, there are some guys that if they're tough enough, that can step up there, but and do those things. But I don't look at our team as that those kind of people. I think they're a pretty quiet group of guys, for the most part, and hopefully they'll stay that way and just come and play. Not waste a lot of energy talking.
Certainly two different philosophies at work on each side of the court. 2:15 to play here in the first, 20-11. Seattle with the lead. Isley trying to put a handle on Payton. Can't get him. That's before the shot. That basket will not count.
Isley on the reach, and Isley's wondering why he can't get that call. George Karl right now very confident. But for Jerry Sloan, he wants his team to just stay close. If they can answer the emotional charge through the next 36 minutes as Nate McMillan comes out on the floor, they still believe that they have a chance to win.
Payton hits the first.
Payton has been so successful being able to score down low throughout the Western Conference playoffs. If they move on and play Chicago, the Sonics won't have that luxury because Chicago's guards are so big with Harper and Michael Jordan, of course.
Isley with the open shot, passed it up. Malone threw it away. 3-on-2. Payton to Askew.
Those are the mistakes that the Jazz haven't been making, but it started with Isley turning down a shot when he was wide open.
Sean Kemp playing a very disciplined ball game tonight.
Seattle has scored 8 straight, batted out of bounds by the Sonics. Well, Seattle started strong. Utah came back, worked their way to within 5, but now the Sonics are up 13 with less than a minute and a half to play here in the first. Hornacek has Perkins in the air, hits the jump shot. Jeff Hornacek has been outstanding in the postseason, shooting 51% from the floor, 59% from behind the three-point line as Stockton gets ready to check back in. Askew, strong to the basket, too strong with the shot, and Malone has the rebound.
Well, the guys that are scoring, Hornacek and Malone, they've got to, take that upon themselves to keep the game close and be more aggressive at the offensive end. Antoine Carr gets the first foul against Sean Kemp.
That is number 2 on Sean Kemp this evening.
Hornacek running the show now that Stockton's on the bench. Antoine Carr's got such solid fundamental moves, good footwork. Antoine Carr, at one time, when he was a star player for the Atlanta Hawks, was signed as a free agent by a great Boston Celtic team. They thought so much of his game back with Bird and McHale and Parrish playing, they wanted Antoine Carr. Atlanta matched that offer sheet.
And now Frank Bukowski off the Seattle bench for Sean Kemp, who will take a seat with 2 fouls on him.
Well, for the Jazz, the bench has been the secret for their success at home. They need Antoine Carr Russell to stand up in this ball game, give him some scoring, some energy. He gets both the free throws.
Time running down to the final 45 seconds of the first quarter.
Utah's bench, though, has not shown up in Seattle.
Payton for 3.
Those shots he's not going to make. If he spots up and he's clear, he's got a better chance of knocking that down. But under some pressure, the tough shot for Gary Payton.
Malone, and illegal defense. That'll result in a free throw for the Jazz.
You always know who the guy that's illegal because he's always looking and saying, what, me? I was above the line. Sam Perkins is guilty this time. Hornacek, who has been deadly from the line, will attempt to make the illegal D.
Hornacek now 3 out of 3 from the line, and the Jazz 6 for 7 from the free throw line tonight. Here's Sam.
You see him dancing back and forth across that line, and he just wanders in, and then he says, what? I was across the line.
And now Stockton going to hold for one last shot for the Jazz, who trail 24-16, 15 seconds.
Now he calls everybody in, so that means it's time to go. Looking for Hornacek.
Got fouled, and it almost went down. He'll go to the line. The foul is on McMillan.
And Bukowski goes over and said, don't even think about it, Nate. Just leave the officials alone. The occasion is too big.
And Hornacek will shoot 3.
Beautiful execution of the set offense. We saw this yesterday with exact screen downs in the Chicago-Orlando game where the Bulls were just perfect coming off those screens for wide open jumpers.
I beg your pardon, Hornacek shooting 2.
The Bulls or the Bulls. There was only one guy that was magnificent yesterday. That was Jordan. The rest of them couldn't find his job.
What game were you watching? What about Steve Kerr? What about Scottie Pippen?
24-17, final seconds of the first. Payton all the way to the basket. And Hornacek launches it. It's offline. Sean Kemp with 2 personals, but 6 points to give the Sonics the strong start, while Karl Malone, 5 points and 5 rebounds. We've played 1 here in Seattle. The Sonics 26, the Jazz 17, as Seattle looks to move on to the championship round with a victory here tonight. We'll come back to Seattle with the second quarter in just a moment.
NBA on NBC. The 1996 NBA playoffs.
Throughout this series, Sean Kemp has struggled to stay in the game because of fouls. On Sunday, it finally caught up with him. He got one in almost every way imaginable to get his number 6. You can see he just seems to be the guy in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Steve, Sean Kemp has always been a player with exquisite natural ability. Didn't go to college, didn't have the luxury of great coaching at the collegiate level to get a disciplined game. And where he needs to go, he needs to look at what, as his numbers appear from this series, what Sean Kemp needs to do is look at the career path of Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon and see how they focus their game in on skills and winning rather than spectacular athletic plays.
We have a call on John Stockton right off the bat to start the second quarter. That's number 2 on Stockton as he tries to keep track of Gary Payton.
Now, he bodied him out of bounds, so, you know, he's trying to be physical. He's trying to slow down Payton. Adam Keefe is in the ball game. Didn't play in the last couple of ball games. They're looking for the garbage man to clean up and get some activity for them on the offensive glass.
Askew looking down low, and now Russell has the defensive duty on Payton. Shot clock is at 8. Bukowski takes a look, moves on Malone. Rebound off to Russell. Brian Russell had an outstanding Game 3 with a career-high 24 points and 10 rebounds. Jerry Sloan looking for that kind of production off the bench from him again tonight.
Now, with Keefe, you don't expect him to shoot the ball from the perimeter, so they're playing him tight. 9 on the shot clock.
Carr. Antoine Carr on his move to the baseline.
Well, that's 2 times the Jazz have gotten right at Sam Perkins. Hornacek the first time, this time Antoine Carr, both with terrific success.
Seattle with 8 more points in the paint than the Jazz. And there's an illegal defense call against Utah.
You can understand it for Adam Keefe.
We'll take this moment to remind you, Saturday and Sunday, NBC Sports takes you to the red clay of Roland-Garros Stadium for the French Open, presented by Perrier. Pete Sampras, seeded first in the French Open, ranked number 1 in the world, looks to capture his first French Open title. He faces fierce competition from some of the world's best, including defending champ Thomas Muster and Andre Agassi. Grand Slam tennis on NBC. The French Open, presented by Perrier, Saturday at noon Eastern, Sunday at noon Eastern, here on NBC.
Karl Malone will go to the bench here as Foster comes back in. Interesting matchup. Stockton with a couple fouls guarding Nate McMillan. I was talking to Nate about that injury that Hannah reported. And Nate was saying, you know I'm hurting, Bill, if John Stockton's blocking my shot and sending it back in Game 4.
The Jazz are really going to have to tighten up defensively because the offensive unit that they have in there is not that good. 6 on the shot clock.
Perkins has to hurry his shot off the baseline, and Russell chases it down. Sloan wants his team to push it. Stockton does just that. Carr got the basket and the foul.
Now the big dog does what most big people do, run right down the middle of the floor, and Stockton found him right in the paint. Nice finger roll and a chance for a three-point play.
6 points for Carr as the Jazz move to within 6.
Stockton taking advantage of the fact that Kemp and Detlef Schrempf are both out of the lineup. Rakowski and Perkins can't run the floor nearly as well as their younger counterparts who both start for George Karl.
And now Gary Payton takes a seat on the bench.
If the Jazz are to make a run with this group out on the floor, Schrempf and Perkins really have to do most of the scoring. They want McMillan and Askew handling the ball.
And foul inside is called. Brian Russell.
It was a good foul, but not necessary. It was not necessary because Askew had lost the ball on the way up. He was not going to score anyway.
And the Sonics were up against the shot clock too. Now they get a new 24. Perkins. What a big contributor he has been off the Sonics bench.
It's the same thing he did in the decisive game 4 on Sunday in Salt Lake City. Time and time again in the low post, scoring at will.
Antoine Carr scoring at will. This time with the jump shot. He has 9, 29, 24, 9.5 to play in the first half.
He's the hot hand that they've been looking for. He's got 7.25, but they got to control Perkins.
And this time Perkins can't convert. Foster has the ball.
Foster is playing very well.
That was a shot John Stockton might have taken once upon a time. This time he slows it down.
They got to get John Stockton scoring the ball at some point in this series, and it should be tonight. He's got to be more aggressive at the offensive end. There's garbage man Adam Keefe doing what he does best.
Adam Keefe didn't see action at all Sunday in Game 4. He's in tonight. 29-26. The Jazz have cut it to 3. Askew. And he was fouled as he put the shot up, and he'll go to the line to shoot 2. Sean Kemp back off the bench, but he'll have to wait a while as we take time with 8:48 to play. In the first half, you're watching the NBA on NBC.
Michael and the Bulls want the winner of the West. The NBA playoffs continue on NBC.
Hanson, the sales report was
Well, there's at least one hearty Utah Jazz soul in the stand. Welcome back to Seattle, everyone. 29-26. Seattle leading Utah by 3 with 8:48 to play in the first half. We've talked about how important the bench contributors are. Antoine Carr is having a big night so far, and Utah's bench is outscoring Seattle's 13-5. In games 3 and 4, Utah's bench averaged 29.5, but here in Seattle in the first 2 games of this series, just 16 a game.
So far, it's a 4-point quarter with that free throw going in for Vincent Askew, so they have slowed down the high-scoring Sonics and gotten the pace of the game the way they'd like it, and with the people out on the floor, they can continue to do so. The Sonics got their scoring power right up front with Kemp and Detlef Schrempf, and the rest of the people will take whatever they can.
Russell, good long-range shooter. Schrempf tight on him. Carr looking for more. That one too strong. Schrempf has the rebound.
McMillan really laboring with that leg.
And we get a call, and a technical foul is called on Antoine Carr.
Now, Carr's been working on a technical since game 1 of the series. I mean, he's been frustrated with the calls that haven't gone his way. Hot hand, and he's saying, hey, the guy pushed me, and I missed a shot. I don't go to the line.
Schrempf converts.
You need something like that if you're going to be able to come in and win in this building. You need somebody to get a little hot, go over the edge a little bit.
But you don't need to give away points to the Seattle Sonics.
It's early in the game. That'll come back to help you later on.
Schrempf. And Russell outjumps his teammate Foster for the rebound. Stockton with McMillan on it.
Beautiful pass.
Russell for three. Brian Russell.
Patience and the trust and faith that those guys are going to make something happen. Russell gets his first three, and the crowd again nervous. 3-point game.
Greg, you mentioned that bench scoring, the dominance of the home court team in that category. So much of that is that fourth, fifth, and sixth guys on each team. The top stars, they play terrific wherever the game is. It's those middle players that have trouble on the road.
Stockton into the lane, puts it up, and gets the bounce. So John Stockton with his first 2 points of the night, and we have a 1-point game. The Sonics 32, the Jazz 31. As you said, Steve, Seattle will let you back into the game.
They will let you back in the game, and you know what you got to do is play through. That's what Sloan was trying to tell his team. Make them a little bit nervous, put some pressure on them. They're going to miss some shots. McMillan blocked.
Foster with the defensive play underneath, and Kemp with a technical foul now. To a man, the Seattle Sonics say they try to keep Shawn Kemp's head in the game and focused, and he admits that he gets carried away at times.
And it's so frustrating in that situation because that's the kind of game that Shawn Kemp wants to play, where the referees put their whistles in their pocket, where they let the shot get blocked underneath.
And timeout is called by Seattle with 6:53 to play in the first half. Low-scoring game so far. Pretty good ball movement by the Utah Jazz, results in 3 points by Brian Russell.
Welcome back to Key Arena, where the Sonics lead by 1. I'm here with General Manager Wally Walker, and success can be a double-edged sword. You have 7 free agents after this season. Where do you start? I presume with Gary Payton.
Yeah, we've talked to Gary. He said he wants to stay here. We certainly want to keep him. It'll be an interesting summer for us.
Has he helped himself considerably? He's been arguably the best player in the Western Conference in these playoffs.
He's had a great postseason. We thought he would. There'll be some other teams interested, but we're going to get him re-signed.
What about George Karl? Are you going to look to sign him this summer to a multi-year deal? I know he's signed for next year.
Yeah, we pledged to sit down and talk to George about future years, and of course, he's going to be back with our coach next year.
I've heard talk that you tried to mold this team a bit in the example of the Houston Rockets.
We needed some chemistry help. We also needed some outside shooting. We got both those with Hershey Hawkins.
And you got rid of some unhappy players as well.
We want players that want to be Seattle Supersonics, and we have 12, 13 guys who want to be that.
Gratifying to you to be on the verge of the NBA Final?
It's a nice thought. We got some work to do here yet tonight, though.
All right, thanks for joining us. Greg?
All right, Hannah, and a 20-second timeout has been called with 6:41 to play. Seattle has been anemic here in the second quarter, shooting just 1 of 8 from the floor, while Utah has gone 6 of 8 to pull to within 1. Want to remind you, Thursday, NBA playoff action continues in prime time. If necessary, Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals as Karl Malone and the Jazz take on Shawn Kemp and the Sonics. Utah has to win tonight to force that. Jazz and the Sonics in prime time Thursday, if it comes to that, 9 p.m. Eastern here on NBC. Now, we just saw Shawn Kemp go on a personal PR tour. He talked to Ed Middleton, then he went over and talked to Bill Oakes like he was making friends for the rest of the night.
Well, he's trying to make sure that the officials understand what is happening to him at the offensive end of the floor. He feels that he's being called for a lot of cheap fouls the other way. He'd like some of those calls to go his way.
Greg, this is terrible. They burned 2 timeouts just to maintain possession of the ball. Can't inbound the ball after their own timeout. Ouch.
So we'll, do what we do best. Take another break here in Seattle and come right back.
He didn't pay. They never do. Now Snickers is even more peanuts. Tons of them.
The Prudential halftime report. We'll hear from the NBA's MVP, Michael Jordan. He spoke with Ahmad Rashad after scoring 45 yesterday in the clinching game against Orlando. His Bulls await the winner of Utah and Seattle in the NBA Finals, which could start on Friday night if Seattle wins this evening. Right now, the Sonics lead it by 1. Utah on a 20-8 run as we send it back to Seattle to rejoin Greg Gumbel, Steve Snapper Jones, Bill Walton, and Hannah Storm.
All right, Bob, thank you. And a live helicopter shot on a beautiful day here in Seattle, and all the Jazz look for the lead for the first time. Foster's turnaround. He won't get the bounce.
Well, one thing about Greg Foster, he is not shy at the offensive end. If he's out there and he gets it, he's going to shoot it. He helped them considerably in Game 4, but it wasn't quite enough. Now see, all of that lobbying helped Sean Kemp.
He'll go to the line and shoot 2.
Utah has battled back to virtually tie this game. And Karl Malone's got only 5 points. John Stockton's got just 2.
Kemp to the line, where he's been shooting 78% in the postseason.
Greg, things started to fall apart for Seattle as Perkins checks in for Bukowski when they went to their bench. And the starters were playing terrific. It's not like they're on a brutal schedule right now. You play every other game, very little travel in the playoffs. And wear those starters out. Big minutes.
We know how tired you were stepping off the plane the other day. 34-31, Sonics by 3, 6:15 to play. Stockton back outside, Hornacek pulled it back down.
And they were trying to stay inside with Antoine Carr. He gets a foul against Detlef Schrempf. They know that Kemp has got 2. They want to keep some pressure on him, so right now they're going away from the mailman, and Antoine Carr has been delivering 7 in the quarter, 9 in the ball game, and a chance to cut into the Sonic lead.
Carr with 9 points, Utah's leading scorer so far, and he now becomes the game's high scorer with 10.
Greg, you were talking about the seemingly impossible mission of Utah to have to win 3 straight games here against Seattle. The last 2 playoff seasons, Seattle has lost 3 straight games to be out. First to the Denver Nuggets, and then last year to the Lakers.
Well, if they're going to self-destruct, it will start tonight if the Utah Jazz can keep them making mistakes.
Hawkins with the turnover. Russell on the move, and he'll go to the line to shoot 2. And Hersey Hawkins just shaking his head after the giveaway at the other end of the court.
No, we have talked so much about the defense of the Sonics, but the Jazz have done a very capable job in their own right, and Stockton right there to make the play to get him out in the open court. Russell gets the first free throw.
I think that's the first fast break opportunity for Utah the entire game.
Russell with 2.
New day. It's time.
Sonics have gone 4 minutes without a field goal. We're tied at 34 as we come up on 5:40 to play in the first half.
Now, Russell has been the guy that's done a very good job against Schrempf. Nice drive by Detlef Schrempf.
7 for Schrempf on the night. Sonics by 2.
Antoine Carr, who's been a terrific force defensively in the middle of this series, did not make a move or attempt at that ball.
Hornacek had a good look at the basket, and that's out of bounds off of Kemp. It'll be Utah ball.
And John Stockton stepped in there, and the Sonics said, "Kumi," and the ball rolled right off of Sean Kemp.
If the Sonics win tonight, they open the NBA championship round in Chicago Friday night. Should Utah win, these teams will go back to Salt Lake City for Game 6 Thursday night here on NBC.
Now with Schrempf on him, Karl Malone should have been looking to score the basketball.
Russell threw it up. Back comes Payton, 1-on-3. Slows it down only for a moment, though, into the lane, and he got fouled by Stockton, who objects vigorously.
3 on John Stockton.
But again, Greg, this is just Gary Payton taking whatever he wants. He brings the ball slowly up the court and then just walks Stockton down into the low box and basically earns himself a layup, which Stockton has to foul to deny.
And with 3 fouls on him, Stockton about to take a seat on the bench as Payton misses the first free throw. So Stockton to the bench. Isley comes in for Utah.
Isley's got to grow some hair. Stockton sits down. They need that competitive fire to continue with Isley out on the floor. 3-point ball game, Seattle.
With all the talk by George Karl and Gary Payton about how this is the most important games of their life, they're certainly not playing very good basketball.
Let's Let's see if Malone starts to take over now. Russell sneaks through.
Yeah, that's a good, strong play by Russell against Gary Payton. So the bench has come up big here in the second quarter with Russell and Carr leading the charge.
37-36. Seattle's lead is 1. Perkins had it batted away. Shrimp for Kemp. And Sean Kemp. 3-point lead for the Sonics. Kemp has 10.
Again, just very basic, simple jump shots and power moves right to the hoop. No double clutches for Sean Kemp.
Malone. And Payton going to push it in a hurry. Top of the key, works his way around. Oh, what a move by Gary Payton. That is as terrific a move as you will ever see. First, Sean Kemp with the jumper from the side. Then Gary Payton came back and put an all-star move on the Utah Jazz. We'll be back in just a moment.
You followed 1,000 plays.
Well, you know what's on the minds of the Seattle fans, but there is the business of the Utah Jazz first, the point guard battle, as it has been so far in this series, being won tonight by Gary Payton.
Size, strength, youth, quickness, better outside shooting, more powerful moves. John Stockton, 34 years old now.
Let's go over to Hannah Storm. Hannah.
Jerry Sloan told his team in that timeout, look, you started out the game trying to outscore the Sonics and you got behind. You got back in the game by playing defense. Now you're falling into their trap again and trying to outscore them. If you're going to win this game, it's going to be on the defensive end. Greg?
All right, Hannah. Sonics began this quarter with just 1 of 7 shooting from the field. They've now made 3 of their last 4. It'll remain Utah basketball.
That 3 of 4 really put a charge in the crowd because they got quiet as the Jazz rolled back. If they're going to get back in the game, the bench has done the bulk of the scoring here, but they got to get Karl Malone in the game now at 3:28.
Good news for the Jazz. They're in this game despite the fact that Malone and Stockton have combined for just 7 points. Malone on the feed from Isley. And Malone with just 7 points now on the night.
Greg, Karl Malone is as good as anybody I've ever seen for a big guy at taking the ball to the basket with 2 hands, swinging those elbows and shoulders to create the space.
Shrimp goes cross court to Kemp.
That's where you want Kemp. That's a little bit further out of his range, and if they can keep him out there, they can do some business. Isley finally gets a roll.
Isley went non-stop to the basket. His first basket. It's a 1-point game again, but a quick pass down low, and Kemp is fouled, and he'll go to the line.
Got smacked on top of his head, and he wants to walk away, but at the same time, he wants to let Karl Malone know, I'm not taking this. Good post position, and they beat him over the top, but Malone is not going to give him anything cheap.
Just a good hard foul by a great competitor, Karl Malone. 8 times first team All-NBA.
Now, Sean Kemp has become a terrific free thrower here in the playoffs. Normally, he doesn't shoot them as clean, but he's nothing but a bottom of the net every time he's gone to the line.
Coming up on 2.5 to play in the first half. The Sonics lead is 3. Carr back outside. Hornacek got it. Jeff Hornacek with 10. And Kemp far too low for Jerry Sloan's liking, and he was fouled.
Now this is shades of Houston when Sean Kemp ran right down the middle of the floor against the Houston Rockets and was able to camp out underneath the basket, get a ball, and score in transition. If they can continue to work that, they can find a way to break away from the Jazz again. First miss for Kemp.
Bob Weiss, assistant coach for Seattle, as well as Tim Gergerich, have worked with Sean Kemp and Gary Payton on their free throw motion, getting the ball up a little higher, not the severe bend at the waist and the bounce at the floor.
2:15 to play. 1-point lead for Seattle. Hornacek for three. Jeff Hornacek gives Utah the lead. The first of the night for the Jazz. They lead at 45-43. And 2 minutes to play. Payton. Wouldn't fall for him. He'll shoot two. Let's go back to Jeff Hornacek, who is shooting 59% from behind the three-point line in the postseason.
Jeff Hornacek got the seams lined up the way he liked them, and it was nothing but money for him. But at the other end of the floor, it was the same corner that Payton turned to give him the big two-point edge in Utah. They got to be able to shut down Payton's penetration. He gets his first free throw.
And the second one spins and comes out. So it's Utah by one. Isley passes out of the double team. Brian Russell with a drive, and it's blocked and a goaltend.
I'm not quite sure why Seattle is double teaming Isley and leaving Russell, Hornacek, and Karl Malone on the weak side wide open. That just plays right into Utah's hands.
And here's a play, pick and roll, trying to take a page from Utah.
Nice closeout by Utah.
Payton for Kemp. Had it blocked by Hornacek. Kemp recovers, can't get it to go down. Isley back in a hurry, going to stop for the short jumper. Back rim, no, and he ran away from the rebound. Outlet for Payton.
That hurt. Because if Isley had stepped forward, he would have gotten his missed shot, turns into 2 points, and their lead of 3 goes to 1.
47-46, 55 seconds to play. Hornacek. Another three.
That's a man in a zone.
No, that's a man that can shoot. That's what that is. That guy has been a cold-blooded shooter his entire career. You can't leave him open.
16 for Jeff Hornacek. Payton open for a three. Suddenly it's turned into a shootout from long range.
Yes, but it looked like they were going to sag. Payton has picked him up. 9 1/4 for Payton. Second three-point field goal of the game for Gary Payton.
25 seconds to play in the first half.
Hornacek is laying over here looking for the ball. One more time, he's saying.
Isley down low, Malone. Nice pass from Howard Isley along the baseline.
Isley's played very solid basketball. Nice job by Sean Kemp not to pick up his third foul in the closing moments of the half.
Three seconds, 2 seconds. Schrempf for three. No. And that'll do it. What turned into a conservative game. Hornacek and Payton have picked it up from outside. Hornacek with 16, Payton with 18. We go to the half. It's Seattle trailing Utah. The Jazz need a win to stay alive. 52-49, Utah in the lead. We'll be back with the Prudential halftime report right after this.
Seattle, but any thought that they had come to concede after falling behind 10-0 and then 24-11 has been erased. The Jazz come roaring back and they lead 52-49 at the half. Back in New York with Dr. J and Peter Vesey, I'm Bob Costas. We'll talk about that first half in Seattle in our next segment. But right now, we turn our attentions to the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, who, of course, await the winner of the Jazz and Sonics in the NBA Finals. Yesterday, Chicago completed the sweep of Orlando, running its playoff record to 11-1 and its combined record for the year to 83-11. After yesterday's game, Jordan spoke with Ahmad Rashad.
Word retire means you can do anything you want from this day on. So if I desire to come back and play again, maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe that's the challenge that I may need someday down the road.
Realistically, 2.5 years ago when you retired, did you ever think you'd be back playing in the NBA Finals? Realistically.
No, I thought I'd never really be playing basketball in the NBA. I mean, But it's funny how things happen in such a short amount of time, and I think the break has only made me a better person, a better basketball player. But I'm happy to be back in the finals by all means.
And you know that Michael is enjoying this. He's back at the scene of his biggest playoff miscues here in Orlando a year ago, and you know that he is using it as a positive.
I think the difference of last year's game, well, the series was, first of all, I didn't feel physically I was capable of living up to what, the consistent play that I've always had pride in. Don't take anything away from Orlando. They got great athletes. But I felt we can still match, them with the great athletes, athleticism on our team, and have the advantage in terms of the mental toughness.
As you look back at the series that you've been through, was New York a tougher series?
I felt New York was a tougher series because of the experience, the desire that New York has carried in all the confrontations that we've had. It's more like a rivalry. This series is beginning to be more like a rivalry, and I don't think it can match to the intensity of New York. Experience is the biggest teacher, and we all had to go through that. And some go through it longer than others, but yet it's still something that everyone has to go through. And I think that's the stage that the Orlando Magic is in, the experience of being in situations and knowing how to deal with them. They found themselves in different situations in this series, and they really didn't deal with it in the same manner as they're going to have to, or as we did.
What time is it? Game time!
Is this the best team you've played on?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think on paper you have to look at it and say yes, because of the multi-talented and multi-personalities on this team. Yes, they've been able to blend it all together, but what the team did in 91, 92, 93 over a period of 3 years can't be matched up to one season, and a season that hadn't really accomplished the ultimate, which is to win a championship. So I think it's an unfair comparison, but if I had to make the choice, I wouldn't say this team is better than those 3 years.
I have been around you on your first 3 championships, but this year it seems that you are having much more fun, much more relaxed, and really enjoying playing basketball.
I missed it. I think I missed some of the camaraderie that happens in the mix of winning and being in these situations. I guess it's just a matter of getting older and knowing that you have very little time left in playing at this level and playing at the level that you have set for yourself. So you might as well enjoy it and not overlook anything. I think that had a lot to do with me being away for the 2 years that I was away, to realize that you have a talent, you have an opportunity. Don't pass it aside, or don't look at it as yesterday. Take precedence and look at it in the day's light and enjoy that. And that's the way I've approached this season in each and every moment. We got one more tough fight, to get over this mountain, and you might as well give it all you have and know that you're going to have 4 months of celebration and something that no one, no matter what happens in the future, could take away from you.
Well, that's a fact. His airness was, in a sense, your heir to a certain standing in the game's history and within the league, so you've watched his career with particular interest, and you spent some time with him earlier this season.
Michael Jordan is truly the man. Michael plays in the league by himself. He has this profound perspective about what it takes to win beyond that of any of his peers. You want scoring, you get it from Michael. You want defense, you get it from Michael. But the important thing about this package is his talent, his motivation, his determination. His comeback and going to the finals is a modern-day phenomenon. There are players who play their whole career to try and get to the conference finals, and he's done what he said he was going to do.
When the best player is also the best competitor, what a package. Peter.
Well, you talk about this guy's got the unparalleled impact on the game in terms of fashion, the long shorts that everybody's wearing, the black socks, in the way the game is played, in the way the game is viewed. I mean, he's made millions of fans out of people who were apathetic to the game. I remember talking to him when he was out of basketball, in baseball, and telling him that I never thought he could come back and be the same player after being away from the game as long as he was, 1.5 years. And he told me, he said, look, I can come back and score the same amount of points that I left at, 32 a game. He says, all I have to do is get 8 a quarter. And he was right.
Well, I guess he was, as he is about most things. A reminder that if the Sonics win tonight, if Game 1 of the NBA Finals, Seattle at Chicago, begins Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. If Utah wins this Game 5, then Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals against Seattle would be Thursday night, also at 9 Eastern Time from the Delta Center. When we return, we'll talk about the first half of the Jazz and Sonics, but first a message from Prudential and a word from the NBA.
If it wasn't for music, I don't know where I'd be. I mean, I'm able to do something that not everybody does.
How have they done it? With their bench. 25 points from the bench, 27 from the starting 5. The big two, Karl Malone, beneath his usual output with 9, and John Stockton continues to struggle in this series. Just 2 points. He's saddled with 3 fouls, again outplayed by Payton, who has 18 points on 6 of 9, and 4 assists in the first half for the Sonics. So, in a sense, good news for Jerry Sloan that the bench has been able to pick the starting lineup up.
And what did you leave me here?
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
It occurs to me that the mailman has delivered everything but a title for the Jazz, and now he's depending on the bench. And it also occurs to me that nobody in the history of the game that I can come up with anyway has come from further down the bench than Brian Russell. I mean, this guy is doing 9 points in this game. Maybe the only one that's close is Greg Foster.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's no shame in using your bench. I mean, the things that the Jazz needed to do to be in this game was to obviously maintain control of the game. It didn't look like they were going to do that in the first quarter, but they have control at halftime. They needed for their mainstays to be consistent. They still have another 24 minutes, Malone, Hornacek, and Stockton, to pick up their numbers. But the bench is truly the key. Antoine Carr has done a masterful job, and you got to credit Jerry Sloan for going and playing those guys in a back-to-the-wall situation and having confidence in the bench that carried him so far this year.
Hornacek, by the way, did have a good first half with 16. Some NBA coaching news. Dave Cowens, the longtime Celtic player and more recently an assistant coach with the Spurs, will be introduced as the Charlotte Hornets' new coach at a press conference tomorrow. Cowens succeeds Alan Bristow, and Peter Vesey has discovered that Chris Ford, the former Celtic coach, interviewed for the vacant Philadelphia job today. Ford has already met with Milwaukee and Dallas about possibly coaching those teams. Peter tells us that Paul Westphal, the former Phoenix coach, will get a second interview in Dallas in the next few days, and a decision on either Westphal or Ford will be made by the Mavericks by the end of the week. Turning to a few key results from Day 2 of the French Open today. On the men's side, second seed and defending champ Thomas Muster of Austria won in straight sets. Michael Chang, the fourth seed, who won the French back in 1989, had an easy time with his first-round match. In women's action, co-number 1 seed Steffi Graf, who's won this tournament 4 times, won 3-2 today. And American Jennifer Capriati, attempting a comeback unseeded in Paris, lost in straight sets. We'll begin our coverage of the French Open this coming Saturday at noon Eastern Time. We'll also have 3 hours of coverage on Sunday, and that too begins at noon Eastern Time. It's halftime in Seattle. The Jazz leading the Sonics by 3. Back to Key Arena after these messages from your local station.
This has been the Prudential Halftime Report, brought to you by Prudential. Live well, make a plan, be your own rock. NBC, the 1996 NBA playoffs.
Welcome back to Seattle, everyone. At halftime, the Utah Jazz leading Seattle 52-49. And a look at the Miller Lite halftime stats. Well, Utah shooting very well from the field. 19 of 36 for 53%. Seattle 17 for 36, led by Gary Payton, who is 6 out of 9 from the floor, a total of 18 points. Meanwhile, the bench scoring has been Utah's strength so far today. Antoine Carr leading the way with 10 points off the bench. Utah's bench has outscored Seattle's 25-7. Hannah Storm is with head coach George Karl, and let's check in with Hannah right now.
Team seemed to get a little bit out of your offense. Did they get overconfident after that early run?
I think we got a little excited. I thought we played great, and then Utah had a great second quarter offense. That's the best they passed the ball and shot the ball on us. I'm happy. I think we're right around. I think we got to change some stuff on the pick and roll. They did a great job there.
It's not really Malone and Stockton that are hurting you so much as some of their bench players and Hornacek. So what adjustments do you make defensively? Do you stay home on Hornacek?
Well, I think most of the time we've been thinking about staying home, but he's made tough shots. I think we got to be cuter, and I think smarter. Their bench is a big key. Their bench with they've come in with Carr with 10 and Russell with 9. It's a big time.
All right, good luck in the second half, George. Thanks, Greg.
All right, Hannah, the only other time in this series Utah led at halftime was Game 3. They led 51-47. They went on to win that one by 20. We'll be back.
I see skies are blue, clouds are
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I have a dream. My poor little children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
What a wonderful world.
There is a road that exists, I think, in the mind of every Chrysler engineer. A bending, twisting, wonderful road that serves as a reminder of why we build cars. We've got very sophisticated independent suspensions, multi-valve engines, and cab-forward dramatically improved stability. They're just wonderful machines to drive, thanks in part to that road in all of us.
The new reloadable smart card. The future is happening now down under and on its way here. From MasterCard, it's smart money.
Later on, an all-new Tonight Show, basketball fever strikes. Jay's got Eddie star Whoopi Goldberg, and it's no holds barred with former Pittsburgh Steeler Kevin Green.
When you come out of here, Green, you're dead meat!
Hey, don't mess with Green.
Crush your head like a cantaloupe!
Plus, there's action so intense, you get the point. Then Conan's got Dr. Ruth Westheimer, NBC Tonight.
Back for the start of the second half. Take a look at the leading scorers so far tonight. For the Utah Jazz, leading the way, Jeff Hornacek and Antoine Carr off the bench with 10. For Seattle, familiar duo of Payton and Kemp have combined for 30 of Seattle's 49 points, 52-49. Utah is in the lead as we get underway here in the second half.
But, Greg, nobody else for Seattle is playing. They got out to such an easy, early, big lead. They just sort of said, well, this thing is over. Utah back in charge.
Sean Kemp, open jump shot.
If you go back to the history of the series has been, with the exception of game 1, the games have been tied or close at the break. That continues. Karl Malone draws a foul right away. Looks like Irvin Johnson again.
Boy, there's the John Stockton of old with a quick pass inside. That's number 3 on Irvin Johnson.
Steve, you talked about the history of these two teams. Before tonight, they had played 8 times. 4 of those games had gone down to the last play at the buzzer, and every game was won by Seattle.
Well, the fans counting down Karl Malone, and Karl seems to get it off right at about the 10-second mark. And Malone knocks down both of them. He's 3 out of 4 from the line tonight. 3-point lead for Utah.
Now in game 2, Karl Malone had a slow start and busted out for 18 in the third quarter. They need that kind of game from him if they can put this thing away as they try to trap Gary Payton.
And batted out of bounds, and it belongs to Utah.
Greg, I rarely made 2 free throws in a row, but you know that's got to feel real good for Karl Malone and the fans just coming down on you like that.
I think your problem, Bill, was that you were counting out loud as you stood there in the line.
I had about every problem you could imagine, Greg. You love to play in a noisy den and stick it in their face. Yeah, that's why we're playing. Oh, what a pass.
That one was hard, too hard for Malone to handle, and back comes Seattle. Payton. Down the lane, kicks it out to Hawkins for 3. And Russell with the rebound. Russell getting the start here in the second half in place of Chris Morris. Hornacek for Malone on the move. And a good look cross court by Jeff Hornacek. 5-point lead now for Utah. Hawkins spins and scores.
Percy Hawkins, that was a nice play. Yes, but he is too good a player to be playing the way he has been in a number of these games.
Hornacek, the quick turnaround. It's the front rim that time. And Payton comes away. Here comes Seattle, 4-on-2. Payton down the lane.
What a try.
Offensive foul. John Stockton on the receiving end. Payton, his second personal.
How about stopping at the foul line? Is this practical modern basketball by John Wooden, Chapter 2? After not jumping to pass, stop at the foul line.
Well, none of them went to UCLA, nor did they buy the book.
It's in the library.
Another place that you don't see many guys going.
Russell up top takes the three.
Now that's the kind of shot that Sloan doesn't want. A quick shot and a miss. They're fortunate to get it back because Irvin Johnson couldn't control it, bounces it out of bounds. But he'd like to see them make the Sonics play defense for 24 seconds and get something out of the hands of John Stockton, Karl Malone, Jeff Hornacek.
New 24 on the shot clock for Utah.
Jerry Sloan is going without Chris Morris. Why waste the minutes? He's been getting nothing out of him.
Trying to set up the pick and roll. Stockton, Malone. Mismatch.
Shot clock down to 5. Spencer lost it. Put it on the floor, lost it, and then Hornacek fouls Payton as he goes by. That's number 2 on Jeff Hornacek.
All right, now explain to me. What does Wooden say about big man, small man?
Don't bring it down. That's Chapter 3. Don't put it on the floor. Turn in with the elbows up, rotate at the hips, move your pivot foot. If he happens to bite your elbow, that's his problem.
Chapter and verse. Payton to Hawkins. Dishes to Kemp. 16 for Sean Kemp, who has been able to put in more minutes tonight because he stayed out of foul trouble.
Again, they come back with the mismatch, this time to Foster.
Hornacek on the move. Didn't get the bounce. Johnson with the rebound. Sonics looking for the lead, and they throw it away.
Detlef Schrempf stopped moving. Gary Payton so frustrated.
Well, they want to bring the house back into the ball game, and with a fast break, they know that they'll have this play jumping, another turnover. So the Jazz have a chance to continue to control the ball game. George Karl very confident that his team can get it done here in the second half.
Utah with the ball and a 1-point lead, 8.5 to play. Stockton.
Well, they're giving Stockton that shot. He's got to be able to cash. I mean, Payton gave him 5 feet. He pulled up, just couldn't make it, and hasn't been able to make shots so far in the series.
Stockton 1 out of 3 from the floor so far today. Schrempf looking for room, had it stripped.
Russell has done a terrific job against Detlef Schrempf whenever he's been in the game, given the assignment.
Malone for Stockton.
Poor balance for Utah. Bring it out and reset.
Hornacek back out. Stockton for 3. And Malone is there, and he'll go to the line.
Well, if I'm John Stockton and you look at a puzzled George Karl, a technical on top of it, you have to keep shooting. The only way you're going to find the basket is to continue to throw the ball in the air.
The technical is on Detlef Schrempf. And Hornacek will shoot. That's the 3rd personal foul on Gary Payton.
And remember that Sean Kemp already has a technical.
Hornacek 93% in the postseason from the free throw line.
Detlef Schrempf unhappy on the previous play, but he laid that ball out there. He got the ball first, hand second, and Schrempf is saying, look, I need some calls.
Crawford beginning to lay down the law now as Detlef Schrempf continues the conversation. Malone with the crowd counting in his ears. And Hornacek comes away with the ball.
Greg Foster keeping it alive.
And Hawkins took it away. Payton on the run.
He went to UCLA, that guy. Big time move by Gary Payton.
20 for Payton. 2-point lead for Utah. Foster. Too hard.
Ouch. Now that's out of his range. They're willing to give him that shot. Payton trying to keep him in the game. Turned it over. Johnson wasn't ready to handle the pass.
Where do you want it? Put it in the hands that time.
Antoine Carr's going to come in. Foster got a little happy, and with that happiness, he got himself sent to the bench. You know, he wanted to be the hero of this game and a couple of big shots, and Phil Johnson told him, settle down. We didn't put you in there to lead this team in scoring.
Sonics turned the ball over just 4 times in the first half, have turned it over 6 times already here in the third quarter alone. Russell, oh, what a quick first step. He didn't get it to fall, though.
Hornacek is hesitant at the top man on the swing after Malone posts up. I think he just lets that fly. His stroke is so good right now.
Illegal defense call against Utah. And Hornacek can't understand it.
Karl Malone is the guy. Take a look from up top, and you'll see Karl Malone is just standing in the paint, guarding nobody. And my man's in the vicinity, but I'm just watching the game, and it ends up being zone defense by Karl Malone.
Hey, you got to say this. It's a heck of a game to watch. 6:34 to play in the third. Jazz by 2.
A team of men was assembled to battle the forces of evil.
And night. We literally redefined the convertible from
Chrysler, leaders in innovative design and engineering. By Prudential, live well, make a plan, be your own rock. And by Budweiser, official sponsor of the 1996 Olympic Summer Games. This Bud's for you.
Summer, he's going to go to college. If you'll recall, Shawn Kemp entered the NBA at age 19, never having attended college, and did so 7 seasons ago only on the promise to his mother that he would eventually go back to school. He's enrolled at Indiana University at South Bend, is enrolled in some computer classes and a speech class, and says no matter how long it takes, he's going to go back and get his degree, or he's going to owe his mama a whole lot of money. Greg?
All right, and you know you have to keep your promise to your mom. Absolutely. Hawkins hit the technical foul. Sonics with the ball, trailing by 1, 6.5 to play in the third quarter. Payton back outside to Schrempf. Still plenty of time on the shot clock. And Hornacek reaches in for the foul.
Utah had him pinned in on that side, and they could not get out.
Well, you don't reach. You had Payton under control going away from the basket. Hornacek thought he was going to make a steal and give him a fresh 24.
Payton looking down low to Shawn Kemp, who now throws a pick. And another one. Schrempf, top of the key for 3. That second one was a tough pick.
John Stockton's a tough guy. Shawn Kemp's a wall of cement to run into.
Sam Perkins now in the game and on Karl Malone. Top of the key, Russell for 3. Missed everything. Russell trying to tell Ed Middleton that Schrempf got a piece of it.
This guy's Brian Russell shooting 50% in the playoffs this year from behind the line.
60-59.
Now that's the offensive ability of Hersey Hawkins, and when he's aggressive, he hurts his opponent, but he hasn't done enough of it tonight. Coming inside the car against Peyton.
Russell looking for Malone down low. Spins over everything, tapped out of bounds by the Jazz as Antoine Carr goes visiting the fans.
Too slow of decision-making by Brian Russell on the wing on the weak side. Karl Malone will eventually get it, but he got it so late there was nothing he could do. And Antoine Carr takes everybody's life in his hands as he charges in.
Hawkins.
Puts a body on Sean Kemp. Karl Malone, who's owned the last couple trips down on the defensive glass, just thinks he's got the rhythm going.
63-59. We're under 5 minutes to play for the third quarter.
Now the Sonics have gotten to be very aggressive. They've gotten the crowd back in it, and the Jazz have to settle down. 9 on the shot clock.
The lob for Carr. Falling away and travel. Peyton tries the pass across the middle. There's a whistle, and that may be on Kemp. It is, and that's number 3 on Kemp.
These are the kinds of fouls that have put Sean Kemp in jeopardy. I mean, trying to go for a loose ball, out of control, falls into Karl Malone, and he picks up 3. And as quickly as he'll get 3, 4 can come right behind it, and then he'll have to sit down. And he's got 7 here in the quarter and playing big.
He tries to make plays that he has absolutely no chance of being successful at.
Malone. Karl Malone.
Hornacek comes up struggling. Beautiful ball fake by Karl Malone.
Hornacek is limping back on defense. Peyton outside. And Russell bodies up on Shrimp. Oh, look at the pass to Hawkins.
Hornacek went to sleep defensively, and Hersey Hawkins has now got his teeth into the game. 7 in the quarter, and every time he gets it, he's looking to score the ball. So Hornacek has got to come back and be active at the offensive end. He's got to just start scoring himself.
Sonics by 4, coming up on 3.5 to play in the third quarter. Malone to Carr. Antoine Carr continues to play big time. 12 for him off the bench.
He has such a wide body. When he makes those good, strong step-through pivots, bodies just fly off. Kemp in foul trouble.
Shrimp. Hawkins with the rebound and right back to the basket.
That's why you never let a guy that can score get into the ball game, because now he's rebounded, he's making things happen that he didn't do in the first half.
Sonics trailed at halftime but have come out pumped here in the third quarter. 2:58 to play in the third. The Sonics 67, the Jazz 63. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
On Saturdays, your customers can receive 2-day packages from FedEx. Cost? An extra $10.
On Saturdays, your customers can receive 2 to 3 day priority mail packages.
Seattle, everyone, where in the third quarter, Hersey Hawkins has started to come up big for the Sonics with 7 points on 4 for 6 shooting, including a 3-pointer. Hawkins was acquired from Charlotte with David Wingate in the trade for Kendall Gill back in June of '95 and shared with us his thoughts about what he was thinking when he arrived here in Seattle.
It was funny, but I think the day I was traded, I talked to George Karl over the phone, and one of the first things he wanted to say was, we're not as crazy as people make us out to be. So, of course, you know, the first thing that went through my mind is, oh, my goodness, you know, what am I getting myself into? But, you know, I sort of found that out to be true. You know, I think they were just a bunch of guys who enjoyed playing the game, who play tough, who play hard, and I guess with all the distractions not being there from in the past, the year was a lot easier.
Well, Hersey Hawkins' wife, Jennifer, told him to be more aggressive. We saw Jeff Hornacek come right out of that huddle and be more aggressive. He hit a 3 to boost his point total to 20. It's a 1-point game.
Well, Hawkins has really picked it up, 9 1/4, 1 3-point field goal, but I'm sure what really got his attention, Hornacek had 16 at the break, and he had 3.
Hawkins.
One of the knocks on Hersey during his career is that he just has not been aggressive enough with his own offense. He's just too nice a guy out there. Sometimes you have to be a little bit selfish, or a lot selfish.
Well, if you're an offensive player, you've got to be a big-time selfish. Malone thought he got fouled. No whistle as he stumbled through that shot.
Payton back outside. Perkins three-pointer on the way. No. Rebound Hornacek. Up ahead for Karl Malone. And fouled from behind by Perkins.
Greg, I think Gary Payton is getting too deep on his fast break penetration. Head for that foul line. He's getting into that dotted line area and is confusing the balance, the rotation, the patterns that the guys are running with them on the break.
And the count has begun for Malone. Teaching instrument for the little ones.
Malone is steady. I mean, his numbers just as you can write it down. 26-6 almost every time out, trying to get to 9 1/4 and tie the game up.
He is 4 for 7 from the line tonight. We are tied at 67 with 1:55 to play in the third.
Now Russell has switched off on Gary Payton and trying to shut him down with penetration.
McMillan the miss, Malone the rebound. Isley takes a look around for an open man, stop and go, and then pulls it back out.
Isley has played solid ball in the limited minutes he's had, a few turnovers.
And there's a foul on Hersey Hawkins as he tries to fight Isley off going down the lane. We'll remind you, Saturday and Sunday, NBC Sports proud to present the U.S. Women's Open. Defending champion Annika Sorenstam headlines the game's best, including rookie sensation Carrie Webb, Laura Davies, last year's runner-up Meg Mallon. The U.S. Women's Open, Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern here on NBC.
Now, Greg, look at that face, and you would say if you're playing, this is a kid I can rough up. This is a little angelic face, and I'm going to break him into the playoffs. And they've been smacking him around pretty good. Hersey Hawkins took a shot at him as he goes out of the game along with Shrimp. Isley misses the first, but see, that's innocent. It'll be a long time before we see that again.
He's held his own, though. He has not backed down 1 minute. Now, this is where Seattle fell apart the last time. They had a good run. They brought their subs in and really didn't get anything from those guys.
At 25 to play. Jazz by 1.
Well, Bill, they have a little bit better combination. Offensively, they still have Payton, Kemp, and Perkins out on the floor. The first time, they had 5 guys that were going to struggle to score.
McMillan shot, no. Fight for the ball, out of bounds to Utah. Unpopular with the fans. We come up on 1:05 to play in the third.
And remember, George Karl told us yesterday, this is going to be the biggest Utah Jazz game that he has seen. He expected a big effort. They haven't disappointed him. Hornacek, a rare air ball.
But I think with this unit, he feels that he's forced to shoot.
Oh, nice look down low. Askew to Sam Perkins. And it's the Sonics by 1. 40 seconds to play in the third. Malone, turnaround, got it.
Extremely difficult shot. Faked both ways and then faded away, and Isley right there again, putting pressure all over the Sonics.
20 points tonight for Karl Malone.
Big quarter for Malone, starting to pick up steam as he did in game 2. He had 18 in the third. He's got 11 here in the third quarter as they try to hang on to a lead that they had at the break, up by 1. It's walk-it-up time.
I like what Jerry Sloan has done by putting Russell here on Peyton. I think that size has bothered Jerry.
4 seconds difference between the game clock and the shot clock. Peyton outside, Perkins for 3, front rim. And whistle blows, and the foul is going to go against the Utah Jazz. There is no basket. Foul is on Isley.
Both teams in the penalty, and you had them taking a tough shot, chance to rebound, maybe get the three-point advantage back. Isley's got 4, and they will go to the line with Nate McMillan.
That's the versatility of Nate McMillan, though. One time he's out shooting the 3 himself. The next time he's bringing the ball up the court. This time working the offensive glass in a mismatch physically over Isley.
Stockton in for the last 4.6 seconds, replacing Brian Russell. And McMillan will try to give the Sonics the 1-point lead.
3 guards in the game. They're looking for a quick push and a Hornacek special if they can get it.
They'll almost take Antoine Carr out and leave Russell in for a 3-pointer.
Stockton to half court. Malone couldn't get it away.
Gotta be a foul.
No foul is called. Jerry Sloan is livid.
And well, he should be.
And a technical foul has been called by referee Ed Middleton. And now the officials are going to huddle.
It's got to be a foul. I mean, there was no way before the horn.
And the season's on the line right here for the Utah Jazz.
Malone had him up, and Perkins runs into him, and he says, no call. And Sloan's reaction is, you're not seeing the same game I'm seeing.
That's as excitable as you will see Jerry Sloan. Let's see what the officials decide now. And Joey Crawford is explaining things now to George Carl.
Take away the technical foul. There was no technical call on the play.
And Malone will go to the free throw line here.
For 2 or 3.
Well, we're going to bring the players back onto the court to shoot these free throws.
Well, the problem for Jerry Sloan is he thought there was going to be no call at all. What it turns out to be is Karl Malone was not in the act of shooting the 3, so they're going to give him 2. Bill Oates was watching the clock at the other end and waved it off. That's where Sloan coughed up that technical and went ballistic.
He waved it off and set Jerry Sloan off.
But they've taken the technical back away.
And if Karl Malone thought shooting free throws was tough before, 0.6 of a second on the clock.
As much as we torch the officials, that huddle to do something positive, and they made the right decision.
Carl now 4 for 8 from the line. This is for the tie. Perkins inbound to McMillan, who launches one wide of the basket. What an interesting end to the third quarter. 20 points for Malone, 20 for Hornacek. We'll be back after these messages and a word from your local station.
The new Chrysler
National Basketball Association may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the NBA.
Greg Gumbel, Bill Walton, Steve Jones, Hannah Storm back in Seattle as we start the fourth quarter. We're all even at 7-1. And our guest cameraman is the gentleman who delivered the national anthem here, owner of one of the great voices in the world, Jeffrey Osborne. anymore. Jeffrey, this is fun, isn't it?
Oh, this is wild. This is the greatest game I've been at. The crowd's unbelievable.
I want you to know you're doing a fine job with the camera. You can give it back now, okay?
All right, I'm trying to ISO on Peyton tonight.
All right, Jeffrey. Thanks very much. Let's go over to Hannah very quickly. Hannah.
Greg, on the second to last play before the end of the quarter, Jeff Hornacek twisted his left knee. They're icing it down right now, testing the mobility. They hope he'll be able to come back in the game. Greg?
All right, Hannah, thank you. Malone, foul by Peyton. Here's Jeff Hornacek on the side.
And that's trainer Mike Sheminsky, longtime trainer in the NBA. Very skilled, incredibly professional. He'll get him ready.
Now, this is the type of game where they need him ready. Peyton picked up his fourth personal foul as the Jazz worked him over on a mismatch. Malone just can't get that first free throw to go in.
Seattle is switching Utah's pick and roll. And Peyton has ended up guarding Karl Malone so many times, and then they're coming down from the weak side with a high double team. I don't know about that strategy. I mean, Karl Malone can score too easy on those point guards.
6 for 11 from the line for Malone. 72-71 Utah. Anyone who thought the Jazz were going to come in here and roll over, think again. Peyton gets Russell in the air, drives the lane.
At this stage of the game, you want to see the ball come over the top. You don't want to let a guy get you up, roll in for an easy two and a possible foul.
22 for Gary Payton.
9 on the clock, mailman.
No cutters, no movement, standing around watching and waiting.
And whistle blows. This is on Carr.
You know, there are certain players that never foul. Antoine Carr is one of those. But a good pump fake gets Russell off of his feet, and the boulevard is wide open, and you can't give Peyton that kind of a lane. He's going to hurt you every time.
Why go for that pump fake? He hasn't made one of those shots tonight. Again.
Peyton. Tapped out. And out of bounds to Utah. And now
they're going to give the ball to Utah. Ed Middleton saw Askew bump Russell out of the way rather than call a foul. As you watch the play right here, no, you're not going to get a chance, so I'll give him the ball.
I think Brian Russell, excuse me.
You did it again.
So they give him back the ball. He got overruled on the call, but his intent was not to call a foul and to give Utah the ball.
Russell's got to stand up over the top of Peyton. Quit going for those pump fakes.
Malone trying to push Kemp further away from the basket. Keith helps with the double team. Askew left open, shoots over Keith, and got the bounce. 6 for Vincent Askew. 3-point lead for Seattle.
Luck has been such an important part of this series. Shots to go in and shots to stay out. Askew got a fortunate bounce.
Malone being asked to step it up here. Now the double team. Shot clock is at 4.
Stockton's got to step it up.
Russell forced it, getting fouled on the shot. 3-point attempt, and he'll shoot 3. Foul is on Gary Payton, and that's 5 on Payton when we come back. 9:48 to play, and another Seattle Sonic in foul trouble.
Michael and the Bulls want the winner of the West. The NBA playoffs continue on NBC.
Because someday you'll get that big promotion that moves.
Washington Bullets in 5 behind the play of Gus Williams. He led Seattle in scoring in every game, including 23 in the 5th and final game. Lenny Wilkins and his club came away the world champions. And there's the banner. In recognition of that moment, Miller Brewing Company will donate $1,000 to the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. Shot of the 1979 Seattle Supersonics, the NBA World Champions, and here in Key Arena, there is plenty of evidence that they were champions, including one picture. There's Slick Watts being guarded by Sasquatch, I believe.
I blocked that shot.
I'm sure you did. Here's Brian Russell. who will shoot 3.
It was free throws that cost Utah a chance to even this thing up, so they got to tighten down in that area. With 3 chances here, he could tie the ball game up, as Gary Payton will have to sit and watch for at least the next 3 to 5 minutes.
Russell hit 2 out of 3. They are 19 for 29 from the free throw line tonight after shooting a miserable 11 of 22 on Sunday.
So with Payton out now with foul trouble, Stockton can get a lot more aggressive on the advance of the ball, create some chaos for Seattle's set offense.
Jeff Hornacek back into the game. Askew open for 3. And McMillan chases it down.
That's the rebound the Jazz have to get. They got Askew shooting, and they want him to be the guy to beat him. They look inside to Detlef Schrempf.
Schrempf fights off the double team. They swing the ball to Perkins. And now down low to Kemp with the shot clock at 7. Good ball movement by the Sonics, and McMillan missed the shot from the top of the key.
Now, the Houston Rockets are saying, hey, they didn't miss those shots against us. I mean, Askew and McMillan, Bukowski tortured the Rockets, and they've gone back to form. They missed 2 in a row. Stockton on a 2-man game.
Shot clock down to 6. Carr on the baseline with the hook.
Oh, beautiful.
Antoine Carr with 14 points. Utah's bench has come up with 32 to Seattle's 13. 1-point lead for the Jazz. And a whistle down low. That goes against Stockton. Make it Karl Malone.
You know, Karl Malone's pet peeve is that Sean Kemp does not guard him at the other end of the floor. I got to guard him, but at the same time, he comes down and wears me out.
Back outside with McMillan.
The Hawkins is back in. They need firepower.
Perkins. Great shot by Sam Perkins.
Perkins has always been there for them. Whatever they need, whether it's low post offense, whether it's 3-point shooting, rebounds, defense in the low post.
Sonics by 1. Malone. Karl Malone puts Utah back up, 78-77.
Stockton looking at Sloan and saying, yeah, McMillan, that's me. And you let him turn the corner. You look right at Jerry Sloan and said, I got this guy. And he walks right into the hoop.
McMillan, remember, playing through that horribly painful injury that Hannah reported at the start. Left hamstring.
79-78, and there's a McMillan foul as Stockton made his move to the lane.
Now, there's also the competitor in John Stockton. After giving up the hoop, he wanted to get it back himself, went right at Nate McMillan, picks up the foul. But you can see, now, I'm not giving this one up.
Meanwhile, Gary Payton sits on the bench, and you would imagine he would sit until at least 4-minute mark.
Ooh, almost the same mistake that cost him the game. Stockton left his feet.
Hornacek. And Carr with the rebound, had it rejected by Kemp. And the whistle blows, the foul is on.
Well, that wasn't a good play by Antoine Carr. The frustration by Carr, he thought he should have gotten the call while he's down on the ground. He leg whipped Detlef Schrempf, picks up his 3rd personal.
But this is not a real bad foul, Steve, because he's out of the play. Seattle's going to get a fast break out of it. So, hey, just give him a little kick and slow it down. Let him get up and get back into defense.
Sonics with the ball and a 1-point lead. Schrempf. And good defense by Brian Russell forced the turnover.
Jumping to pass once again.
6:54 to play in regulation. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As our new spokesman, Michael...
Is brought to you by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. By LTDS WorldCom, telecommunication service that's one-on-one. And by New Miller Beer, the brand new beer from Miller with big flavor that goes down easy.
Welcome back to Key Arena in Seattle, where The entertainment between the action is almost as much fun to watch as the action itself. 6:54 to play here in the fourth quarter. The Sonics 79, the Jazz 78, and the two big guns on the front line for each team doing their job so far tonight.
Surprise, Karl Malone just has 15 shot attempts. He does have 11 free throw attempts to go along with that. But you think that if the Jazz are going to have a chance to win this game, he's got to take over 20 shots.
32 points for the Utah bench, led by Carr's 14 and Russell's 11. Russell, too hard off the glass, rebounded by Kemp.
Pass up a good-looking three for a leaner from 18 feet. I don't know.
Well, it was a good shot for him, except he aimed it. At that point, he wanted to make the shot too good. And when you're shooting it, when you get to the top, you just got to relax and let it go.
Gary Payton going to come off the bench next to us. Sean Kemp with a short pop. Sonics by 3.
Malone wants to turn the corner.
Malone will go to the line and shoot.
Greg, Seattle has been getting the ball prior to the last couple minutes to Malone by pick and roll, and then they switch that. They got a mismatch. This time they're just dumping it straight down in. There's no mismatch. There's no double team. And Sam Perkins has extremely long arms.
Foul number 3 on Perkins. McMillan to the bench for Seattle. Payton back onto the floor as Malone goes to the line. And here's the count.
Big gamble by George Karl, bringing Payton in. 6:01 to go in a very tight game, but he wants to close this thing out now. So he's playing his ace and hoping that Payton can stay out of foul trouble. And you know how aggressive Gary Payton can be. Malone is
1-2.
just
chases it down.
That's why you pivot.
Stockton with Payton on it. Let's see if Stockton takes it at Gary Payton.
There's the pick and roll with the guard coming on Malone.
And that's batted out of bounds by Hawkins. There's a situation where on the switch, Payton had to deal with Malone down low, and Malone passed out of that situation.
Too soon. Wait till that double team comes.
Russell.
Aimed it again. So his problem has been wide open shots, but wanting to make them too good and hasn't been able to deliver. Perkins.
11 for Perkins. 83-79 Seattle.
Brian Russell is shooting on the move rather than just letting the spot up three come naturally to him.
Hornacek fouled by Perkins. That'll be 4 on Perkins.
15 fouls, so Hornacek will go to the free throw line, get a chance to make it a 3- or 2-point ball game.
Utah fighting to play another day. They win tonight, Game 6, Thursday night in Salt Lake City.
Hornacek has been relatively quiet of late. Hawkins has been staying at home with them. They've been coming on the double team with Detlef Schrempf, with Sean Kemp.
One for 2 for Hornacek. 83-80 as we come up on 5 minutes to play.
Utah has never won a game on the road in the Western Conference Finals. This is their 3rd time here in the last 5 years.
Payton trying to work on his own shot clock against him.
Schrempf on the move. And Russell clears the glass. 4:40 to play. Now here comes Malone down on the blocks.
If you're John Stockton at some point. Oh, what a shot by Hornacek.
He was so wide open and then so covered on the same play.
23 for Jeff Hornacek, 1-point game. And the Russell blows before the shot. The foul is on Antoine Carr. That's 4 on Carr.
Now Hornacek started and Sean Clint closed the lane in a terrific acrobatic effort by him to get the hoop. But John Stockton has got to know that Gary Payton has got 5 fouls, and at some point it's got to make some aggressive move to try to get him out of the game.
Payton wants the ball and posting up Stockton. And foul is called before the shot.
Russell came over to give the help on the double team. His problem has been here in the second half. He's gone for every pump fake that Payton has delivered. Stockton goes first, Russell comes second, and Payton will go to the line.
Russell's just too excited, trying to call an offensive foul on that play.
And Payton a little too strong.
This has not been a series of brilliant free throw shooting.
Well, the bigness of the moment for both teams has hurt, but Seattle has been the better at the line. Payton gets 1 of 2.
He's 5 for 8 from the line tonight. 84-82 Seattle. 3:55 to play.
There's the pick and roll with the switch.
Malone for Russell, and Russell will shoot.
That's what they wanted from the weak side. Somebody dive into the basket because all of the attention was on Karl Malone. And know they got to give Payton some help. Shrimp comes in, and at the last minute, there's the cutter, Russell, back to the line and a chance to tie.
I think Karl Malone could just reel right to the hoop on Gary Payton in those situations. He's waiting for the double team every time.
He is saving that move for the
one-time
moment.
But one time to get the victory and then run off the court and get on the plane.
That's it, but they got to make their free throws. Russell had a chance to tie it before. He comes away 1 of 2.
84-83, Seattle by 1. And 3:40 to play. Kemp puts it back outside. Shrimp. And now Hawkins with the pump fake and the shot short over the backboard. It'll go over to Utah. Close games between these two teams are the rule. Of the 8 games played between them, regular season and postseason, 4 have gone down to the last possession, and the Sonics have won all 4.
Yeah, and what John Stockton and the Jazz are saying is at some point they got to get a break. Malone on the follow.
How about a break for John Stockton? The guy got hammered, can't get to the line.
Jazz by 1, 85-84. Kemp. And fouled by Malone. That's number 3 on Karl Malone.
Malone is remarkable when you think about the number of minutes he plays, the people that he defends, and stays out of foul trouble. He thought he was clean on that one. But
sure looked clean from here.
First 2 games played here in Seattle, the Sonics won them by 30 and then by 4. Utah took game 3 by 20 in Salt Lake City. Seattle won by 2 on Sunday. We're tied at 85.
I'd come back to the pick and roll again.
Stockton has got to keep the pressure on Payton, so he's going to look to try to make it happen with him having the ball.
Russell for 3.
The first straight-up shot he's taken in the second half here, and he makes it.
15 for Brian Russell, 88-85 Utah. And a 3-second violation on Seattle.
Wow. Gary Payton.
George Karl walks right out to Ed Middleton to voice his displeasure, but the call stands. When we come back, it'll be Utah basketball in a 3-point lead, 2:37 to play. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Welcome back to Olympic coverage. Now, the pommel horse is a great chance for the USA to move up in the medal race, and this young man is probably our best hope for gold. He's off to a good start.
Walton, Steve Jones, Hannah Storm back at Key Arena. Utah fighting to stay alive. Let's go back to what Jerry Sloan told us about no one says anything on this team. He prefers guys who just go out and do it.
And as you mentioned, Greg, that this team, his Utah Jazz team, is a perfect representative of his personality as a player. These guys have fought back against insurmountable odds. In my opinion, they have come back and controlled this game since the end of the first quarter.
Gary Payton playing with 5 fouls. Utah trying to improve on a 3-point lead.
Well, they love to pick and roll in these situations, and they run Stockton off with Russell.
Russell fouled from behind.
No, they're just going to say
it was out of bounds.
I don't understand Brian Russell. He makes a shot, and then he passes up the same exact shot. And tries stuff that he's missed and failed on every other time.
5 seconds on the shot clock. Malone. Got it! Karl Malone! Malone with 29 and a 5-point Utah lead as we come up on 2 minutes to play.
Bad pass.
Well, the Sonics are a bit nervous because of the bigness of the situation and need someone to step up. Last game it was Perkins, but he turns it over.
2-on-1. And now Hawkins comes back to help. Shot no good. Picked off by Hawkins.
Well, the mistake by Russell Lynn. He got a little happy and caught up.
And Schrempf with the drive tries to dish it to Kemp. Saved by Kemp. Hawkins outside. Payton for 3. Turnover at the other end by Utah. The Sonics are back within 2 minutes and a half to play. Stockton.
Nice
back outside.
Stockton made the play, got to the lane, couldn't deliver the goods, but made the save. They'll work the clock. Going to come back in the direction of Karl Malone.
Russell takes a quick look at the shot clock, has 6 on it. Hornacek, long shot off the iron. Malone. Did he call timeout?
He did. Now that's a good use of a timeout.
Absolutely. Karl Malone on his way out of bounds gets the timeout call from the official. It is a 20-second timeout. A 20-second timeout call. And the clock stops with 1 minute remaining and the Jazz by 2.
Well, this is big-time play. Gary Payton was the only guy that had the heart, the nerve to take the shot. He delivered the goods to cut the lead from 5 to 2. And the Jazz know that if they can get a score in this possession, they put all of the heat right in the lap of Payton and the Sonics.
Utah has been going with Stockton one-on-one from out in front. Almost like a Jerry West or an Oscar Robertson or Michael Jordan, if you will. I think it's time for Karl Malone to deliver right here. They got a full shot clock. Get it over here on the left box. Let him make a power move to the hoop.
Under a minute to play. The Jazz play for their lives.
A lot of time still. 9.
Malone, tough turnaround. Schrempf with the rebound.
Karl not nearly as effective from the right side of the floor as the left.
Kemp over Malone. We're tied at 90. Well, darn if we are coming down to the last possession again between these two teams.
Shot clock favors Utah right here.
Stockton. Malone on the baseline. Blocked by Kemp. And timeout is called with 2.3 to play. Gary Payton lobbying for more time on the clock. Karl Malone lobbying for a foul. Neither request is going to go. Back for the final 2.3 in a moment. Back at Key Arena. A few more seconds have been put on the clock. 4.2. Here are the final seconds of the previous play.
They swung the ball to Karl Malone along the baseline. Terrific block by Sean Kemp. When they finally get it figured out there's 4.2 seconds to go.
Here's a look there. Karl Malone wanted a goaltend called on this, but this looks like a pretty good block by Sean Kemp.
It's a perfect block, and he got the old recovery.
If Seattle scores, they move to the NBA Finals. Utah looking to force overtime. Kemp across the lane, had it batted away, and Stockton calls timeout.
Wow. Malone takes a huge gamble and slacks at the ball, and the Utah Jazz get it back 1.4, and they're saying at one point this year, we got to get the last possession and the last shot to go in.
Take another look at a call that could have easily gone against the Utah Jazz.
They close the middle, and Malone gets on top of the ball, and then it pops up into Russell's hand, and Stockton is right on top of it with a timeout.
First the body, then the hack.
That's not a foul. This is for the championship here. The guy didn't even hit the deck.
So now 1.4 to play in regulation, and Utah with a shot at victory and sending this series back to Salt Lake City.
Well, we know the man with the quick hand is Hornacek. The last time they were in this position, it was Gary Payton who said, I am not letting this guy get this shot off. Payton has 5 fouls, so he really can't be as aggressive as he likes, but they've got to get the ball in the air.
And there's not much opportunity to do anything else but get it to one guy. No time for a pass after the initial pass.
But they do know who they don't want to shoot the ball for Utah, and that's Jeff Hornacek.
And they don't want to give up a layup right at the rim.
See, I'd have either Antoine Carr or Adam Keefe come in and inbound the pass, and then have Malone, Stockton, Hornacek, and Brian Russell spotted up all around. Maybe some scramble, trying to free up, then catch and shoot quickly.
You never want a big man to inbound the ball. They get nervous. You know, they don't want to make a mistake. Now we got Antoine Carr is going to inbound the ball and pray that he gets it in.
Let's keep in mind, John Stockton missed a game-winning three-pointer Sunday in Salt Lake City. Will he have another chance? Carr will inbound.
Stockton was wide open.
Hornacek, just too late to get down low to Karl Malone, and we go to overtime. That's a great play with 3 seconds to play. It doesn't work with 1 point and change on the clock. We're tied at 90. We'll go to overtime. Jeff Hornacek pops free, but the defense closes down. We're tied at 90. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
A complicated murder.
I think it's on the clock. Utah down 3 games to 1, needs a victory to move to Game 6. We want to remind you, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno follows your local news. Once we wrap things up here in Seattle, Whoopi Goldberg among Jay's guests later this evening. In overtime this year, Utah 1-2, Seattle 4-2. They're each 1-0 in the postseason. Remember, Gary Payton with 5 personal fouls as we get started, and the tap goes to the Jazz.
Now, the history of overtimes is a team that scores first usually wins the overtime. The Utah Jazz start with the first possession. Stockton has only scored 2 points and still trying to get that 6th foul.
Carr with a nice pass from Stockton.
One of the reasons Antoine Carr is so effective down low is that he doesn't try to overjump like so many of the younger players do. He doesn't have that terrific jumping ability, so he's got the nice soft little flip moves.
Sonics down by 2. Shot clock at 4, Shrimp. Carr had it and lost it. Malone recovers.
Then the Shrimp just has no offensive rhythm whatsoever.
Credit Russell. Russell has been a guy that's given him trouble. Whenever Chris Morton stayed in the game, Shrimp has tortured him. Coming back to Antoine Carr against
Carr had it rejected. Malone. Short jumper is short. And Shrimp picks it off. All Seattle starters with the exception of Urban Johnson. Sam Perkins is there. Payton alone, three-pointer.
When Seattle runs their post-up offense, that sets their three-point game up. That's why I'm just amazed that sometimes they don't just hammer it inside and Kemp and Shrimp every single time.
Still trying to get rid of Payton, and he's the guy that made the big three-point shot. They come back to Hornacek.
Hornacek for three. 95-93, Utah 26 for Jeff Hornacek. Hornacek 4 of 5 from behind the three-point line, as is Gary Payton tonight.
Well, they got to stay at home with Payton. He has been too big in the playoffs and three-point line. See if that opens things up for Sean Kemp.
That's not John Stockton's game to stay at home defensively, though.
Oh, look at the drive by Gary Payton.
You got to stay at home. Payton is the guy. He's got 5 here to keep the game tied, and he's the one that's making the big shot.
31 for Payton as we come up on 2.5 to play in this first overtime period. Stockton outside, Russell for 3. And Stockton is there, and he'll go to the line to shoot 2. Russell with the air ball, and Stockton was there for the catch.
Well, Stockton knows that Payton is hurting, and he's trying to get him out of the game, trying to penetrate, make something happen. Russell aired it out, and Stockton, as feisty as he is, staying in around the glass, and Stockton trying to break the tie.
Only his 3rd point of the night. Stockton gives the Jazz a 1-point lead. He is 1 of 6 from the field. 1 for 1 from the free throw line, and now 2 out of 2. 97-95 Utah. If the Jazz win game 6, Stockton for the steal, and it's out of bounds, and it belongs to Utah. So Stockton coming back and hustling on defense helps force the turnover.
He was beat on the weak side, recovered with a tremendous burst of quickness to poke it away initially. And then the scramble, Gary Payton, as quick as he is, not quite quick enough that time.
16th turnover of the night for the Sonics. Malone, long jumper.
Wild shot.
Coming up on 1:45 to play. Kemp down the lane and then back outside to Payton. Shrimp with the rebound.
Oh, he got it. He traveled with the ball. He thought that he had the 1 foot on the ground, and it's a turnover, and it's nervous time for George Karl and the Sonics. This is a big possession for, as you see the travel, for the Utah Jazz.
Bill, what do you think about those leaving your feet to pass?
I don't like that even in the overtime. But one thing about these teams that's different from Chicago is that Chicago knows exactly what they're doing and gets right into their offense at the end of the game when they have to have a shot.
Malone's shot bounces off the rim and over the backboard. And Seattle regains control with 1:19 to play. And we've got a timeout on the floor. 1:19 left in this first overtime. The Jazz trying to force game 6 Thursday night. Continues in prime time if Utah wins here tonight. Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Karl Malone and the Jazz, Sean Kemp and the Sonics. That would be 9 p.m. Eastern time Thursday night. If, however, Seattle prevails in overtime, then on Friday it'll be game 1 of the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan and the Bulls looking for their 4th NBA crown in the last 6 years. That would begin in prime time Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, here on NBC. Everything in the world favoring Seattle coming in here tonight. A 3-1 lead, a very emotional victory on Sunday, and yet the Utah Jazz have come in here and just taken it right to them.
The nature of the Utah Jazz is blue collar and grit, and they have done that. They've given a gutty performance, and they have the Sonics on the rope. And Stockton this time trying to keep Gary Payton from getting his hands on the ball. He scored all 5 points in the OT.
The amazing thing, Steve, is that they've done it without a great performance from Stockton. which I agree with you in the opening. He had to have it, and he hasn't today.
Back outside. Carr has it. Tried to outlet, and it's out of bounds to
Oh, that's a big
Utah.
ball. They're saying that the outlet pass was tipped. Antoine Carr was throwing it to nobody. The referees confer.
Utah basketball.
It was Tip Carr wanted to get the ball to Hornacek, and right there, the Sonics tipped the basketball.
The right call.
Malone inbound, and Hornacek saves him.
They are gambling with their lives here.
Look at Payton locked up Hornacek. The hog tie him. Wasn't going to let him get near the ball.
Russell, shot clock is at 8. 40 on the game clock. And that's batted out of bounds, and it belongs to Utah with 5 on the shot clock.
Now, the play of the both teams tells you how big the moment is. I mean, Seattle wants the hoop to tie it up. Utah wants to win the game, but nobody is being aggressive and going to the hoop.
At the very least here, Utah wants to get to the free throw line and put some more points on the board. With the ball in a 2-point lead. 5 on the shot clock. And they throw it away.
That's a big man taking the ball out of bounds.
You got to have better inbounding than that. I know they love to get Stockton on the run to the hoop. Get the ball to Karl Malone and let him do something.
Half minute to play. Payton into the lane, short jumper. Around and out, loose ball. Payton comes up with it. And timeout, Seattle.
Nice dive by Antoine Carr to at least give Utah a chance.
18.1 to play. When we come back, the Sonics looking for the chance to tie it up. Twice this season on last-second shots in January. Gary Payton, with time running out, drove for the layup to give Seattle a 1-point victory. Then late in March, Sam Perkins with the jumper in the final seconds as the Sonics won it by 2, 100-98. Here we have 18.1 to play. The Jazz 97, the Sonics 95.
I'd get the ball in Gary Payton's hand early. Clear everybody out, and then let him maneuver and get to the hoop. Force the double team. I think Utah will eventually come. They'll have to help out Stockton, and then they have to swing the ball to a wide-open shooter. But I think Payton can get all the way to the hoop and score.
If you're Utah and you isolate Gary Payton, give the foul. Make them use some time on the clock. They've got 2 fouls to give. They want time. Time is their ally in this situation. The Sonics have to score the ball. They turn it over.
Turned it over. Stockton comes away with it.
They've got a foul. They've got a foul.
Russell, and Russell fouled by Detlef Schrempf with 9.3 to play.
He didn't really have control of the ball. He wanted to keep passing it around. Schrempf caught up with him, so they have used their foul. But a mistake on the inbound by the Sonics, and Payton, who's been big, couldn't have the sticky fingers to hang on to it. Now the Jazz have to inbound the ball and just hang on. Hornacek gonna hold it.
And Hornacek will go to the line now to shoot.
That's the right guy for Utah.
Seattle, 4 turnovers in the overtime compared to 1 for Utah.
And you look at George Karl, and when he was telling us yesterday about how the way they needed to win this game, and has not happened for George Karl.
Hornacek, 6 of 8 from the line tonight. 6 of 9.
His dad is going to call him.
Jeff Hornacek's dad, former coach at St. Joseph's High School in Westchester, Illinois. Hornacek ranks as the number 5 all-time free throw shooter in postseason in the NBA. He hits the second 3-point lead for Utah, and timeout Seattle. So now the Sonics need a 3 with 7.8 on the clock, and we'll be back. Oh, It's getting dark here in Seattle. 7.8 remaining in the first overtime. Welcome back, everyone. And good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Want to remind you, Thursday, NBA playoff action continues in prime time should Utah hold on and beat Seattle. Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals, the Jazz and the Sonics, 9 p.m. Eastern time here on NBC as we take the shuttle back over the mountains to Salt Lake City.
We may just go from Gumble at night to Gumble in the morning here.
Oh, what a terrible thought that would be. How frightening is that?
Well, the Jazz have a foul to give. They don't want to foul on any three-point shot, but possession is everything to them. If they want to hold the ball, all they have to do is foul, make them use some time, foul, get the ball back.
Sonics need 3 to tie. Gary Payton is 4 of 5 from behind the three-point line.
I'd just foul right here, make it a foul shooting contest the rest of the way.
Payton for 3. No. Rebound. Karl Malone. And Utah lives to fight another day. An incredibly gutsy performance by the Utah Jazz, who come in here and knock off the Seattle Sonics 98-95 in overtime. Karl Malone, 29 points. Jeff Hornacek, 27. We'll go back to Salt Lake City for Game 6. Thursday night, Karl Malone with 29 points. He's with Hannah Storm. Hannah.
Carl, very few people except yourselves expected you to be able to come in and win this, much less an overtime game on the road. What was the key factor?
We said that this team have always responded when things was tough on us. We always believed in ourselves when everybody else didn't. So it's sort of amazing when you put your mind to something, you can do it. But I'm really proud of the way the guys came out. We knew they were selling Bulls tickets already, and they had to play us. So that's how they was thinking. But we won this game, and we did what we wanted to do. We want to go back home there and get that one. So this team showed unbelievable character and pride, and I'm really proud of it.
It seemed that the defense in the overtime is the key for you, forcing those big turnovers.
Well, I think the defense really stepped up in overtime. We had some good looks at it. We didn't make it, but like I said, our defense came through. And when nobody else believed in us, we believed in ourselves, and I think it's a good mark of a good team. So I'm really proud of us. We're going to go back home now, so it's really fun.
Does this put the pressure now squarely on the Sonics? They didn't do what people expected them to do, and they're going back to your play.
Well, I think what we have to do now is take one game at a time. Now, we said we're in a one-game season. Those guys are capable of coming in our building and beating us if we don't get ready to play. But I guarantee you we'll be ready to play in our place and try to force a 7-game here.
Are they vulnerable? Where do you see that you can get to them in the next game?
Well, we got to take it at them. We got to get them in the foul trouble. We got to take the ball to the basket. And I think the guys did a great job taking the ball to the basket and make them foul. So, like I said, it was one win, but it was a big one for us. And like I said, I'm proud because these guys really stepped up in this locker room. And like I said, everybody else didn't believe in us. They were selling Bulls tickets. So if that don't get you ready to play, nothing will.
You got a lot more believers now, Carl. Great game.
Yeah.
Greg?
All right, Hannah, he's exactly right. This team stepped up big. The final in overtime. The Jazz 98, the Sonics 95. Thursday, Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Utah looks to pull even with Seattle and force a Game 7. Jazz and Sonics in prime time, 9 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Stay tuned. Most of these NBC stations, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno after your local news. For Bill Walton, Steve Jones, and Hannah Storm, I'm Greg Gumbel. So long from Seattle. We'll see you in Utah. This has been a presentation of the NBA on NBC.
The Jazz.
And if your teenager is looking for a summer job, it's the most important game for the Jazz so far. All night, Utah and Seattle fight it out point by point. But finally, in overtime, the Jazz take it by 3. Final score tonight, 98-95. Hello, everybody. I'm Ruth Todd.
And I'm sick.
You're okay now.
Woo, what a game that was. I'm Nick Norris. We have team coverage tonight. Brad Stanky's up in Seattle. Karen Shaler is here in Utah. Let's begin excitedly with Brad. Brad.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this was probably the best game I've ever seen the Jazz play. They are not champions yet. They haven't cut down any nets. But you guys showed you have the heart of a champion. Down by 13 in the first half, you come back and you really, this was a clutch game.
Like I told you, we're not going to lay down for anybody. This thing isn't over. We're going back home. We got to be ready next game.
I said earlier, if you won this game, this thing's going to 7 because you've got a lot of confidence now. They've got to be second-guessing themselves that they couldn't put you away in Game 5 up here.
Oh, we got to go do the job now. We got to win at home, and then we got to try to come back and get another one. But first thing is first, we have to get to one at home.
16 points from you tonight. Responded well off the bench. You outscored their bench at halftime, 25-7.
Well, I'm just trying to do whatever I can to help this team win. I didn't want to go on vacation.
And you scored a bucket in overtime. Jeff Hornacek hit a big three. He came through. I mean, really, you got remarkable performances. Stockton hit 2 free throws in overtime. He had not been to the line all game long. Remarkable performance all around.
No doubt about it, but I missed a couple of free throws that I won't miss again.
Big Dog, one more question. What was the attitude like in the locker room right there?
Well, we want to go home, get a little rest, and get ready to play again immediately.
Big Dog, stick around. We'll talk to you in Jazz Beat. Remarkable game for the Jazz. They win it in overtime. Now let's send it back to Salt Lake City. Karen Shaler is celebrating with Jazz fans at Green Street. Karen?
That's right, Brad, and I'll tell you what, we want our team home, too. What a game. It was incredible. We had a nail-biting crowd in here. When we first got here, the crowd was a little tame, kind of a little cautious, but boy, I tell you, when the game heated up. Let's look at some of the things a little bit earlier when the crowd was watching this game. They were very excited. Every time the Jazz would make a shot, you know, they would jump up and down. A couple times we didn't have the best shots. There we had some clapping here. You can see some excitement. But it did take a little while for this crowd to get going. I think after Game 4 in the close call, they were a little bit nervous. I want to introduce you now to someone who can really probably have a feel for what our team is going through right now. We have Tom Nasalki. And Tom, you used to coach the Jazz. What do you think of this game? Incredible?
Karen, it was an absolutely sensational game tonight. I thought the big difference was that they got great play off the bench. Russell came in, did a tremendous job, and Antoine Carr gave them some scoring from the center position that they really haven't had in the series. And if these two players come back and play this well Thursday night in the Delta Center, the Jazz will win again. You know what Stockton, Malone, and Hornacek are going to do. When the other two stepped up like they did tonight, they're going to be in business.
I know a lot of the crowd here was a little nervous about being too excited, especially it looked like a deja vu of Game 4 here. You used to also coach the Sonics, which we should mention. Were you torn at all between watching the two?
No, not at all. I want the Jazz to win. I could care less about the Sonics.
There you go. We appreciate you letting us be here tonight. I'll tell you what, it's really fun watching this game. Once again, this crowd, we saw as soon as we saw that last bucket, the crowd, high fives, everything. Great place to be tonight. Back to you.
All right, and I'm sure they're not the only place. We were having a few high fives around here ourselves. Thanks, Karen.
Boy. So what happens now? Well, I've got to take something for my nerves. Maybe you do too. The Jazz and the Sonics play Game 6 at the Delta Center Thursday at 7 p.m. If the Jazz win that one, Game 7 will be played Sunday, back in Seattle. Those games will be aired right here, by the way, on Channel 5. And we'll have more in sports. Then right after the news at 10:35 tonight, we go back to Seattle for a special Jazz beat. As always, our special sports commentator, the Big Dog, Antoine Carr, will join us at that time.
Time to take a deep breath. We do have other news tonight. Whitewater convictions are in tonight. The governor...
What did they say after this game? It was that good. We're going to go to Seattle for a live report next. You won't want to miss it. An intense game, a close game. The Jazz scratching, fighting, and you're going to love what happened at the end. First, though, the baseball scores. Dodgers lose a game, and catcher Mike Piazza, he hyperflexed his knee. He's day-to-day. Aren't we all? We're going to Seattle next. Dave Fox do back exercises.
And you'll meet two adoptable brothers who want to stay together.
And wondered if his guys would show up and compete in Seattle. Well, guess what? I know it looked pretty dark, but there was the light at the end of the tunnel. Even if it was a laser aimed right at the Jazz. Jazz struggled early, down 8-zip. Sean Kemp the jam. Seattle 26-17 lead after one quarter. Jerry Sloan upset, but guess who helped spark the comeback? Howard Isley with the finger roll. The Jazz take the lead at the half. Karl Malone, 29 points. Tied at 71 going to the fourth quarter. John Stockton to Jeff Hornacek. He had the jumper, but he goes to the hoop, hangs. What a circus shot. He had 27. Jazz blow a 90-85 lead in the final minute and a half. We go to overtime. Gary Payton gives Seattle a 93-92 advantage, but the Jazz, Karl Malone touch pass. Jeff Hornacek buries the three. Jazz win 98-95. And we're going to have another game Thursday night at the Delta Center, Game 6. Dave Fox is in Seattle. Dave, that place must have gotten pretty quiet.
It was very quiet at that last second, as you pointed out when you showed right there. You know, one of the most interesting stats, David, if you look at the sheet, is John Stockton has 6 assists and 4 points. That's it. And the Jazz still win a big game. One of the guys who really helped out, 16 points from Antoine Carr, and I spoke to him just moments ago.
Very impressive, especially when you came in. It looked like the Jazz needed a little lift. You looked unconscious.
Well, I'm ready to play. I'm ready to try to keep going on. I don't want to go on vacation yet, and I don't plan on it.
What do you say to those folks up here who had you on vacation, ready for the bowl?
Sorry, but we're going home, try to get another one, and then we're going to try to come back and get another one.
How many games is this series going to go now?
I hope it goes 7. The main thing is we got to get home. We got to have our fans totally pumped, and then do what we can.
Make sure the fans know that.
Oh, they know. Can't look at y'all too good because of the light, but you're ready. We'll be there.
David, you know that old cliche, one at a time. You know, it is a cliche, but that is the truth. Now all they got to work. They go home now, a place where they should be able to get a victory. Then if it goes 7, anything can happen. And David, I have a feeling that if they do get to a 7th game and it's like this one, those fans that are waiting in line for the Bulls tickets may be waiting a long, long time. We're coming back home. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you Thursday at the Delta Center for Game 6.
All right, Dave Fox reporting live. Dave, we'll see you then. Unbelievable. First time the Jazz have ever won a road game in a conference final series, and a great time to do it.
And then missed 3 shots in the overtime period, but the Jazz still able to pull it out. And let's take another look at how they did. It's just an incredible sequence. Ironically, free throws the difference in this one. The Jazz hit 3 of 4 down the stretch. They come up with the turnover, and they were leading by 2 when Hornacek got fouled. He made only 1 of his 2 free throws. Missed the first one, but he made the second one, so the Jazz taking a 3-point lead. And then, as you mentioned, Peyton had the 3-point shot, but it was no good, and the Jazz able to hold on to win this one. Adam Keefe, our Jazz analyst, is going to join us here hopefully pretty darn soon. He's actually getting some stitches taken out of his elbow right now, and as soon as he can, he'll come out and join us and tell us more about this exciting, incredible victory. Carl, this is the first time the Jazz have ever won a road game in the Western Conference Finals, so kind of a monumental game for the Utah Jazz, and they're bringing the series back to Salt Lake City.
That they are. It's the Sonics' worst nightmare. This game this series could go the complete 7.
And you know they got to be hating that because they know now that the Jazz can win on Seattle's home court. So this is going to get really interesting.
Very interesting. Thanks, Wes. Hopefully we'll see you again with Adam in just a few minutes. All right, we'll take a break, come back in a minute, and see how the Buzz and the Grizz are doing tonight.
Tomorrow on Eyewitness News today, tips on avoiding...
All new Tonight Show basketball fever strikes. Jay's got Eddie star Whoopi Goldberg, and it's no holds barred with former Pittsburgh Steeler Kevin Green.
When you come out here, Green, you're dead meat.
Hey, don't mess with Green.
Crush your head like a cantaloupe.
Plus, there's action so intense. You get the point. Then Conan's got Dr. Ruth Westheimer, NBC Tonight.
A Dutch jetliner makes an emergency landing in Boston today. The flight from Amsterdam to Orlando developed problems with the navigational system.
Tonight, authorities hope to dredge the crash crater where key pieces of a downed Kennedy has been discovered. Among the findings, a rare shot of the first couple walking hand in hand moments before the president was shot. The video was thrown away by a Dallas TV station. Someone retrieved it and is now making it public.
And blame Mother Nature for causing the Olympic torch to take a detour today. The flame
oxygen for the last half hour.
Let's see, 3 shirts and 2 ties tonight. I tell you what,
those are tough games.
Oh boy, what a win! Biggest win in Jazz playoff history. We'll take you live to Seattle. Catch your breath after this.
Imagine if you fell in love.
It was effort, and he got it in Game 5. Jazz stay alive. Sorry, Sasquatch, huh? Not a good start, though. Seattle off on a 10-0 run. Peyton cans the 3. Then Peyton feeds inside. Kemp, the loose ball, takes it up with a jam. Jazz down 14-4. But then Hornacek got hot. Hits from downtown. Jazz with their first lead of the night. Hornacek was in a zone in the first half. Pumps in another 3. Jazz by 3 at the half. Second half, hey, turn Sloan's hair gray. 90 all after 4 quarters. In OT, Russell, the big shot. Jazz by 3. Sonics have a chance for the tie. But this time, Peyton could not find the net. And the Jazz take Game 5 on the road. The final 98-95 in overtime. Brad Steinke's in Seattle. And Brad, this is a game that will go down in Jazz folklore, huh?
Yeah, this was classic. I don't know what it feels like to get a death row pardon, but the Jazz do. Everyone counted them out except for the Jazz. You mentioned up top that Jerry Sloan wanted effort tonight. He got it from a lot of people. First and foremost from Brian Russell, Antoine Carr off the bench with 16 points. The mood in the locker room just a few minutes ago, jubilant but certainly not overconfident. Here's what they had to say.
It's a good game to win, but nothing exciting because we haven't done anything yet. We just took it back to Utah. I guess they thought since the game was here, they just automatically had to win. But you know, our guys came out and showed a lot of heart, and they played well. And you know, this is what the playoffs is all about. That was awesome, baby.
Yeah, awesome, baby. That would fall into that category. Hey, join us more in just a couple of minutes. The Big Dog will come back. We'll talk live, break this entire game down. What a thriller it was. Karl Malone had 29 points in 49 minutes. John Stockton scored only 4 points, but he had 2 free throws in that overtime that were fairly important, Bowler.
All right, Brad, real quick. Jazz are chartering home, had a lot of calls. Do you know the arrival time yet?
Have not heard that yet. I suspect probably maybe 2 hours from now. But we'll try to get that. We'll pass that along to in Jazz Beat.
All right, Brad Steinke, stick around. We'll be back in just a bit. Let's talk hockey. The Grizzlies are trying to lock down the Western Conference title tonight in Las Vegas, and right now they've got the key in the lock. The Thunder going down quietly. Grizz find the net first. Andrei Vasiliev spins, fires, and that puck finds the back of the net. Third period, Grizz on top of the Thunder, 5-3. Looks like Utah is on their way to the Turner Cup Finals. Stanley Cup playoffs roll on. Game 5 tonight of the Eastern Conference Finals. And Pittsburgh beating the Sonics in overtime, 98-95. Hornacek in his zone. In my book, greatest playoff game in Jazz history, and that's why it's the play of the day.
It had to be. You all right now?
Yeah.
You got to go through this again Thursday night. You know?
That's right. Yeah, Game 6, 7 o'clock. Tickets go on sale, by the way, 7 o'clock a.m. So set the alarm clock.
All right.
Breathe through your nose, gentlemen. It's payback time for some...
The following is a presentation of KSL Channel 5, the Sports Specialists.
Now's the time.
And then we gonna bust the Bulls up. You hear me? Take them out, baby! Yeah!
We want to welcome back our team and root them on for the finals! Bring on the Bulls!
We got to take care of one more game, and then we're going to the promised land. So our dreams may come true here in the next few days.
Well, Sean Kemp, they did not come true tonight. If you didn't see it, you missed the Jazz finest playoff game ever. Beat Seattle in a must-win in overtime, 98-95. Malone, huge game, scored 29. Game 6, Thursday night at the Delta Center. By the way, tickets go on sale tomorrow morning at the Delta Center, 7 o'clock sharp. Set the alarm. Let's take you to Seattle. Brad Steinke and the Big Dog. What a game.
Yeah, this was a classic. I wonder what those Seattle fans are doing right now that were waiting in line for Chicago Bulls tickets. Big Dog, you took it to them tonight. You guys found a way to win in this one where they did that in Game 4.
No doubt about it. We just came out and gave our all and had to take it to overtime to get it. But whatever way you can get it is the way to do it.
40 minutes for the Big Dog. Is the Big Dog tired right about now?
I'm a little tired, but give me a couple hours of sleep and I'm ready to go again.
And Brian Russell plays 46 minutes off the bench. You guys really did a job tonight.
He did a great job, and like I said always, that's my man. Comes in every time and does exactly what he needs to do.
This was a game that had so many huge possessions, not only in regulation but in overtime. Take us through. There was a turnover late in the game, but you guys recovered, were able to get that ball back and put this one away.
No doubt about it. With Karl and Stock's great hands, they were all over the floor, and the turnover was my fault. I thought I had enough backspin on it for John to get to it, and I didn't. I had too much overspin, and it kind of went out of bounds on him.
Let's talk psychology right now. What does this do for a Jazz team that was backed into a corner? What does this do to a Seattle team that felt pretty confident about putting you guys away?
Well, our back is still against the wall. We have to still come out and beat these guys again at home and then turn around, come back here and try to get another one. I think with the team we have, we're able to do that if we come out and be mentally focused.
Jeff Hornacek, 27 points. He hit some big shots, a 3 in overtime that really put you guys ahead to say.
Well, he's a great shooter. I mean, one of the pure shooters in the league that I've ever seen, and I just love playing with him.
You know, John Stockton struggled from the field again, 1 of 6, but he hit the 2 free throws in overtime. How important was that to see him knock those down under a very pressure situation?
It was very important because some of the other guys, including myself, had missed a couple of free throws. So we wanted to make sure that someone hit those, and John stepped right up like a big man he is and hit them.
Into the third, there was kind of a controversial play. Karl Malone ball fakes, gets bumped by Perkins. At first, there was no call into the quarter and a T assessed to Jerry Sloan. Then they reversed it. That was sort of a key turnaround.
Oh, no doubt about it. It was kind of weird. You never know what's going to happen in this game, so you got to stay ready.
And you guys are flying back in just a bit. Thanks, as always. Well, the big dog lives on here on Jazz Beat.
Well, we got to keep going, and I don't plan on going home and vacationing too soon. So I want to get another game. So fans, I want to see you there. I want to see you crazy. Let's do this thing.
Hey, Big Dog, we'll let you go. Appreciate it. Send it back now to Salt Lake City Boulder. This was a classic, no doubt about it.
Yeah. You want to trade spots? I'd like to have seen that game. All right. Hey, Brad, we'll talk to you in just a bit. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll take you back to Seattle. We'll hear from more Jazz men in the locker room. Don't go away. The big show continues after this.
K-Bull 93 presents Bull Fest 96, starring John Anderson,
better than money in the bank.
Mark Colley, Joe DiMessina, for Smokin' Armadillos, Pirates of the Mississippi, Robert Lund with Bam Davis and Outpost. Saturday, June 15th at Utah State Fair Park. $10 advance, $12 day of show, kids 12 and under free. Tickets now at Reams Boots and Jeans, University of Utah Ticket Office, and Kinko's. Bull Fest 96. It's Utah's classic event, the 19th annual Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Utah Salt Lake City Classic, presented by Salt Lake Community Events and KSL Channel 5, will be held Saturday, June 1st. This year, the Classic begins at the Gallivan Utah Center and finishes at Franklin Quest Field. Entries are open on the 5K and 10K run and 5K walk. You can tune up for this year's Classic at a Gallivan Utah Center pasta dinner on the night of Friday, May 31st. Register by calling 972-7828 or sign up at selected Guard Sports locations.
Know someone who never eats everything on their plate? Introduce them to extra tasty crispy chicken from KFC. Freshly prepared is irresistibly crispy and delicious right down to the last crumb. For the taste that wins everybody over, all you need is a little KFC.
No one can resist our double delicious double crunch meal from KFC. For a limited time, get 8 pieces of extra tasty crispy chicken and 4 Colonel's crispy strips, plus 2 large side items and 4 biscuits, all for just $13.99.
To commemorate Utah's proud heritage, your local Ford dealer assembled the largest caravan to drive through this valley in 100 years. It was made entirely of new 97 F-150s. And just like the pioneers who settled this great land, these trucks stand a breed apart. With a powerful Triton V8, a bold new design, a standard third door, and a special commemorative brand, the 97 Centennial Edition F-150. It's your Ford dealer's way of letting you know they're proud to be the official truck sponsor of the Utah Centennial.
And welcome back to Jazz Beat. The Jazz winners in overtime tonight up in Seattle, 98-95. Let's take you back now to the Key Arena. And Brad, I guess this puts to rest maybe some of the skeptics, maybe myself, maybe you, I don't know, the rest of the media. We've beat up on the Jazz. They can't win the biggie. Tonight they proved a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, we saw a lot of heart here, and that's what Jerry talked about all night long, and we showed it earlier in our broadcast. The Karl Malone wanted to see who on this team would come to compete tonight, and I think pretty much everybody did. Rod Zendel just back from the locker room, and here's his report.
How were the nerves coming down the stretch? Because, I mean, every shot counted.
Yeah, and the nerves was there. We just had to relax and do our job.
Nobody really thought you could do it.
I know they didn't. You know, probably some of our own teammates were doubting us. But, you know, hey, we did it. And, you know, we forced a Game 6 in Utah, and it's anybody's game now.
Tonight we kicked one away a little bit. Some of it was mental mistakes. Some of it was execution. But you can't complain about the effort. You can't complain about the attitude of the team. And
how fun was this?
It was a nice win. It was nice to see us compete against these guys in a tough situation. And fortunate to be able to come away with a win.
Yeah, that indeed they were, joined again by the big dog. And we talked about this Seattle team. They've had a couple of frustrations in the postseason the last couple of years. They were up 3-1 on Denver, lost that series. Boy, a lot of people up here are going to start talking about, is this going to happen again?
Well, we're not going to lay down for them. You can guarantee that. And I know our fans are going to be ready and pumped up when we get home, so I'm ready to do it.
There were so many key baskets down the stretch. How important was it this Jazz team is a veteran team that doesn't get rattled? And maybe George Karl, I talked to him a little while ago, he felt that a couple of his guys maybe got a little bit rattled and tossed the ball away. You guys played very steady.
Well, guys just kept working hard, standing their defense, trying to make sure that three-point shooters weren't able to get easy looks. And it was just one of those tough games where both sides were just battling.
What was the mood in the locker room? Was there celebration, or was it kind of a quiet confidence that we one down, 2 more to go?
Well, we really don't celebrate. We're not that type of team. We just come out when we try to do our job, and the guys are kind of quiet right now. I think they're more tired than anything. We're ready to get a little rest and go back at it.
Big Dog will let you catch your bus. The team going to arrive back in Salt Lake City around 1 in the morning. Great game tonight. 40 minutes, 16 points for the Big Dog.
All right, thank you.
You're coming through, man.
All right,
take care. Well, we're going to send it back to you. We'll have more tomorrow, but this was just a remarkable game. I don't know what else you can say. The Jazz took care of business when they needed to.
All right, Brad, nice job tonight. 98 to 95 in overtime. The Jazz are still breathing. Game 6, Thursday night at the Delta Center. We'll see you tomorrow night on Jazz Beat.